Omega, in his Raiden persona, officially challenged the 7 saints of the Heroes Party, going as far as to proclaim that him fighting them individually would be a handicap. Not to him, but to all of them. And after declaring that he has never known defeat, the remainder of the Heroes Party was provoked beyond measure. Master, till now, I have only fought with the skills and abilities you gave me after acquiring them from our enemies, and I have gathered ample battle experience from fighting by your side for all these years. But after learning directly from Miyamoto-sensei and applying his strategies during practice, I have realized how short-sighted I have been with no true foundation. I shall no longer fight with instincts or just orders received from you, but also the honed skills I've learned after learning from Miyamoto-sensei. Spoke Omega to Kon before the battle started. Learning from a true master can make the difference between the ground and the sky, a distinction that self-taught individuals can rarely achieve in their lifetimes. So I give you full freedom. Fight the way you see fit. Responded Kon in an understanding tone. Because before learning the true ways of warfare and actual fighting techniques and battle strategies from Master Romulus, Kon himself was one such individual who learned through real battle experience. However, the fact remained that the majority of his skills came from the stolen abilities of other people with fighting classes and monster bloodlines that he acquired over the years. Although the blessings from the war deity Cravel had helped Kon raise his proficiency in all of them with the help of the system, he had seen distinctions and restrictions in trying to surpass his own limits. During his training under Master Romulus, then Sage Vildred, and now the Sword Saint, Kon had seen the shortcomings of his ways. Just because you survived the battle and learned from experience doesn't mean that your abilities were peerless or flawless. Hence, this sudden revelation by Omega was more than welcomed by Kon. Meanwhile, the members of the Hero of Space's party were puzzled as well as irritated. Because a duel should always be fought honorably and in one-on-one combat. This was part of their tradition as warriors regardless of where they came from. Even Kon was informed by Miyamoto Musashi that the Erdvampire practiced a code of honor similar to Bushido even before he was summoned as the Hero of Space. That's it. I will not be insulted to such a degree anymore. Face me. Shingen of the Great Red Oni clan. It was the infuriated Oni warrior who lost his cool first after being talked down so much. One challenging all their opponents was seen as the warrior looking down on all of them, as if they did not see the opponent on the same level of mastery as them. Boom! A blood-red aura arose around the four-handed and two-headed horned Oni, who charged at Omega with his Kanobo. Everyone else instinctively moved a few kilometers away in the sky, knowing that the battle between saints was going to obliterate everything in sight just from their saint pressure alone. Bang! Ripple! A massive shockwave rippled through the surroundings and crumbled the ground below, shattering the nearby 1-kilometer radius like an earthquake, destroying a mountain. The environment was filled with rivers and forested mountain ranges, so the tremors caused high tides and landslides in quick succession. Good. You're brave enough to not pretend to abide by laws and attack your opponent for their insults. I like people who fight with their honest hearts, said Omega as a smirk appeared on his face. Sizzle. Sparks arose from the clash of the Kanobo and Raijin as Shingen attacked with 2 of his upper arms, while Omega blocked the powerful swing with just 1 hand, not even moving an inch behind. But you forgot that I have 2 swords, he said. Slash. The very next moment, Omega slashed apart Shingen's left leg with Kaijin using his other hand in a single move. Ah! Wailed the Oni and quickly moved a few hundred meters away in the sky. Soon, his leg started spraying blood, but the stream itself started wriggling and turned into flesh and bones, replacing his lost leg in a short amount of time. All of you, face me together or you will face a dishonorable defeat so terrifying that you will remember it for the rest of your lives, declared Omega menacingly. And if you do not, I shall be the slayer who reminds you of the difference between the prey and the hunter. His overwhelmingly ferocious voice echoed in the pocket dimension. Without waiting for another moment, Omega used Kaijin and sent a massive 400-meter-wide wave of dragonfire akin to a tsunami, instantly coloring the sky yellow as if a new sun arose from the ground below. Shingen quickly used his skill and sent a piercing Kanobo, made from his world energy that thwarted the coming wave of the fire. Crackle. Bang. However, A massive slash made of lightning bolts emerged from the wave of dragonfire, used by Omega using Raijin, and instantly destroyed the summoned weapon of the opponent. Whoosh! The twin-headed Oni moved from his position and appeared 2 kilometers away, watching the aftermath. The position he was previously at was now filled with a tornado made of dragonfire, lightning and wind blades, like a disastrous force of nature. Even Khan was surprised and spoke to himself. Did he just merge 2 of his different elemental attacks after performing both of them? He wondered. Because merging elements first and then making your attack move was the norm, and once they were delivered, the control of the user on the respective elements was lost on them unless one was a magic class warrior. Omega was a samurai, a melee class at that. As a semi-saint, it would not be impossible for many, but as a saint, the immense control of the world energy would drain down the user drastically. The tornado itself wasn't disappearing and kept swirling as if it was part of the natural environment while destroying everything within 2 kilometers of radius. Master, I shall show you the basics of combat I've learned from Miyamoto-sensei. Informed Omega. Looks like my warning fell on deaf ears. Didn't I tell you all to attack me if you wish to win? Since you're all so reluctant and think highly of yourself to not even realize that I'm many times stronger than you lot, I shall come to you. He spoke with an exasperated tone. Boom! Suddenly, even Khan and Ryukin were taken by Omega's aura. Something unforeseeable happened. An ear-deafening war cry filled the entire dimension, and the shockwaves from this beastly roar destroyed the surrounding forest and rivers within a 5-kilometer radius. A monstrous roar resonated and shocked the onlookers as a massive body arose in the sky. Omega, the source of this ominous aura, flew in the sky with Raijin and Kaijin. Yet everyone was shocked by what appeared above him. Is that what I think it is? Thought Khan to himself, taken aback by shock. Yes, this child has awakened it for the first time. Replied Rathner, affirming Khan's speculation. What kind of yokai is he? Why do even I, a chosen hero, feel this sense of danger from him? Thought Sasakai Ryukin, bewildered by the revelation. Because right at this moment, a massive 200-meter-tall head of a wolf arose over Omega's figure. This wolf head apparition had black fur and 4 eyes. The 2 on the left crackled and bustled with lightning and wind, while the ones on the left were ablaze with red dragonfire. To those who didn't know, this appeared like some unique skill related to Omega/Raiden's bloodline skills. But Khan knew better than anyone else that this wasn't just a mere skill or a spectral form made of world energy. This powerful being Omega conjured was none other than the god-beast Fenrir. Miyamoto Musashi taught Khan about space law and how a samurai fights. However, his temperament and goal were different than Omega's. Because, unlike Khan, Omega had no intention of becoming a hero of the masses or wanted to save the world as his responsibility for any reason. Omega did not even care if he died tomorrow. But what he cared most was the one thing that made Miyamoto Musashi accept him wholeheartedly as his successor: his loyalty and devotion to serve his master. In essence, Omega had the true spirit of a samurai. And as his training in Niton Ichiryu progressed, Miyamoto Musashi realized that Omega was a better-suited candidate to impart his wisdom and philosophy in warfare and the code of the warrior, even better than Khan. To him, Omega was like a prophesied genius that he had been waiting for centuries and finally found him, while Musashi was reluctantly forced to train that genius. And since Omega had inherited loyalty, honor, and morality, a part of Khan's personality and his current self was a version where those emotions were amplified to the maximum. Miyamoto Musashi accepted Omega as his true disciple in every sense. However, Khan had no idea about this whole thing even now, and neither did Omega tell him about this situation for reasons of his own. Now he had a chance to showcase his skills to his master against the members of the Hero of Space's party. He had no intentions of hiding his strength. Meanwhile, everyone stayed rooted in their spots as Omega revealed his awakened ability he unlocked finally with the help of his other mentors called Skoll and Hattie, a feat possible only because he became a 5th-stage saint just a few months ago. Somehow, with the rise in his rank, his command and access over the Fenrir bloodline finally became possible for him, and given the fact that Skoll and Hattie were the direct descendants of the god-beast Fenrir, He unlocked the first form of the Bloodline's powers called the Howl of Chaos. As the howl resonated in the nearby 35-kilometer radius, shattering the vast forests, all the trees and mountains that came along the way. A spectacle akin to the wrath of gods, the recipients on the other end were afflicted by a power unknown. What's happening? My powers? It feels like I have fallen by 2 ranks, said Ishin as he felt his body weakening. That's not all of it. I feel like my connection to world energy is corrupted, said Kagura as her body shivered and her hands started shaking. Somehow, Omega had disrupted the flow of world energy itself in the 35-kilometer radius. The first method was successful, thought Omega to himself. Miyamoto Musashi taught Omega his own warfare techniques called the 3 methods to forestall the enemy. The first, Ken no Sen. When you decide to attack, keep calm and dash in quickly, forestalling the enemy. Or you can advance seemingly strongly but with a reserved spirit, forestalling them with the surprise. And now, before the battle even began, Omega had dealt a fatal blow to the opposing side. Boom! Seeing his advantage at the moment, the veterans like the hero's party members quickly adapted and released their auras as well as brandished their weapons. Now you're finally taking me seriously, said Omega with a devilish smirk. Whoosh! His figure flickered and an afterimage appeared right behind Tomo, the Yukiana. Slash! Omega raised Kaijin and made a vertical slashing attack with Dragonfire. Crack! The reality itself cracked, shattering like a glass, and Tomo was shot like a bullet towards the ground. Boom! Tomo crashed against the destroyed forest and created a massive 500-meter radius crater on the ground. She was a snow demon by race, and Kaijin's attack made of Dragonfire was the most powerful type of elemental attack against her kind. Swoom! Soon, the cloud of dust cleared and the chilling icy pillar appeared in everyone's sight. Tomo had blocked the attack with her weapons, the Twin Sai, and negated at least half the damage. Author. Twin Sai is a short sword-pointed weapon with 3 ends similar to a trident. For reference, it's the weapon used by Raphael from TMNT. However, even she realized that if not for her species of snow demon, she would have died if she belonged to any other species. Dragonfire was hard to resist and negate even by 6th-stage saints. System, what's happening? Queried Khan. It seems that the subordinate Omega's bloodline ability has corrupted the flow of world energy and mana, similar to casting a domain, and reduced all of his target's physical stats by at least 40%. And the debuff from that same ability has also temporarily disrupted the ability to cast or use their powers for at least the next 20 minutes by affecting their nervous system. This ability also makes subordinate Omega immune to any magical debuff spells or formations that can reduce his physical stats. This bloodline ability also makes Omega immune to hypnosis and mental attacks. Reported the system. What the hell? He can do what a normal legendary rank spell or an artifact does just by using his bloodline ability. Doesn't that mean Omega can basically strip away the enemy side's advantage in numbers just by a single howl? Wondered Khan, completely perplexed. Because even Khan had to use his dimensional domain or at least one legendary rank spell or an artifact to achieve a similar effect. But Omega's bloodline ability, which he seemed to have awakened on his own, wasn't lacking in any sense. He had also gained immunity against psychic powers and hypnosis, the kind only Khan and Rudra could use in their group. While Khan was thinking about the benefits of this awakened power in a large-scale war, the battle continued on the other end. Swoosh! Clang! Bang! One after another, Omega faced a torrent of team combo attacks from the other saints. Shinjen attacked with his powerful Kanobo from the front while Dasho, the monk, cast lightning bolts shooting at his back. Bang! As the plethora of yellow lightning bolts hit Omega, his figure catapulted to the left and he crashed against a black mountain, his fate unknown. I've changed my mind. He shall pay for this impertinence. I don't know what kind of ability that was, but I feel very threatened and infuriated by it, and I do not like that, said Kensei as he swung his Naginata. Slash! A massive wave of water blades rose like high tides above him and then launched forward toward the mountain where Omega had crashed. However, Just as the barrage of water blades was about to hit the black cloud of sand, a massive maw of a 200-meter-tall black wolf head emerged from within. And at the center of its mouth appeared a spiraling wormhole. Gulp! In a single moment, the entirety of the massive wave was engulfed by the wolf head, and the world energy within it was consumed at the molecular level. And below it stood Omega, completely unscathed. "Is that what I think it is?" asked Khan to the system. "Yes, the subordinate Omega has created a basic and low-tier version of God-Beast Fenrir's special ability," remarked the system as it continued, revealing the name of the original power that once reshaped Vantria itself, the World Devourer. First, the howl of chaos disrupted the flow of world energy and even severed the ability to use special skills and spells by the enemy saints. And now, it was an imitation of none other than the God-Beast Fenrir's unique ability that made it fearsome even among other God-Beasts, Elder Dragons, and Archangels. Although it was a basic and entry-level version of the World Devourer ability, something that inspired the creation of Khan's ability Absorption Divine Ability, it was still so unfathomable. At this moment, the skill that was engulfed by the Fenrir apparition didn't just swallow the attack, it destroyed and dissembled it thoroughly on a molecular level. Khan had a similar ability called Energy Plunderer, which he acquired from the mythical rank Guardian Dragon in the Forbidden Zone of Verlassen Fiefdom many years ago. This skill could not be given to any of Khan's subordinates because it required the dragon bloodline to work. But now, Omega had invoked a similar ability all by himself just by awakening his Fenrir bloodline. Meanwhile, after realizing that the Fenrir head above Raiden/Omega wasn't just limited to that howl, the 7 members of the hero's party suddenly telepathically conversed within themselves. "What the hell is up with this guy? If he's so strong, why haven't we heard about someone like him in the past century or so?" questioned Kensei. "Not only is he freakishly strong but also has this rare bloodline that wasn't seen in our empire before. Besides, I'm certain that the first skill he used has made us all significantly weaker," iterated Ishin as he took a defensive stance while dozens of talismans with archaic runes engraved on them swirled around his figure. "If we're outmatched, then we bridge the gap with our numbers. I know it is dishonorable for someone like us to gang up on a single opponent, but we would face a greater shame if we lost to him at this rate," said Kagura, the 9-tailed fox, as a wave of pink haze made up of sakura petals swirled behind her. Kagura was the first to react and soon summoned a sensu, wooden foldable hand fan, with intricate image of a moon and a pristine sakura tree painted on it. Swirl. Soon, she waved the fan, and a countless number of sakura petals surrounded the nearby 5 kilometers radius, including the sky in a dome-like structure. In mere moments, a type of illusion barrier was cast that changed the atmosphere of the battlefield to a tranquil mountaintop where a massive sakura tree bloomed, making one reject all feelings of animosity or resistance. This was one of Kagura's bloodline abilities as a fox demon, to enchant the opponent and make them drop their guard by using a bewitchment spell. She had many powerful spells even deadlier than it. But Omega's Howl of Chaos had bound their ability to use such attacks, forcing them to resort to these second-rate skills. "Now!" commanded Kagura. Swoosh! Without wasting a single moment, Kensei and Shingen attacked with their Naginata and Kanobo from Omega's right and left side respectively. At this moment, Omega was in a trance and had stopped moving because of the effect of Kagura's spell. Swing! In a microsecond, both the powerful saints attacked Omega/Raiden with all their might, their weapons just a few inches away from his body. Boom! An immense silver aura burst and shook the surrounding environment, cracking and shattering Kagura's dome-like spell. As the light finally dimmed, Shingen and Kensei had their eyes wide open. Crackle! Sizzle! Because both of their weapons with immense might were blocked by the mere flat side of Omega's katanas. Raijin and Kaijin stopped those momentous attacks that should have sent him hurling a few kilometers away with just mere movements of his hands. He had blocked Shingen's Kanobo with Raijin in his right hand while guarding his front, and diverted Kensei's Naginata spear with Kaijin in his left hand while protecting his back. All of this done was in a picosecond, something that should be impossible while the enemy's weapon was just an inch away from hitting him. But instead of acknowledging these two warriors, Omega gave a lifeless and dismissive side-eye to Kagura. Genjutsu of that level doesn't work on me, Omega declared and forcefully kicked Kensei and Shingen with his right leg, shoving them after a few hundred meters. Meanwhile, Kagura's special bloodline spell had completely crumbled to bits. Compared to the ability of that snake, your bewitching spell feels very juvenile, said Omega and quickly dashed towards Kagura, leaving a few afterimages. His immediate attention was now set on the nine-tailed fox who had a large AoE range and could disrupt him later. This was in every sense a strategic move. Swoosh! Omega took only a second to reach Kagura and raised his katanas to attack the fox demon. Futsu no Tenno Hira. Right then, dozens of golden palms, each being at least 20 meters tall, appeared in front of Kagura. Apologies, but violence isn't the best way to achieve victory, spoke Dasho, the Buddhist monk as he slowly descended from the sky. Yet it is what we resort to first because it is the most effective, responded Omega with a slight smirk on his face. The golden Buddha palms summoned by Dasho had created an impregnable wall around Kagura. They are protecting her as a priority. Then she must have the best team buff skills in their group. The old Omega just punched his way through all of his enemies and wouldn't take a different approach unless I ordered him to. But now, he is making logical assumptions and prioritizing on the most effective way to dismantle an entire enemy group without my orders or guidance. He surely has developed good battle instincts of his own. Taking down the biggest support class should always be the priority, spoke Khan to himself as he watched from afar. On his right stood Ryukin with a serious countenance. On the surface, Kagura only appears like she can do some enchantment spells similar to that of a mage or a summoner at best. But how did he know that her mere presence creates a synergy between skills and attacks of all the party members as well as gives them all an elemental buff to their respective skills and abilities? Is this a mere coincidence, or is it because of his developed senses from immense battle experience? Asked Ryukin to himself, and he skeptically looked at Raiden. Meanwhile, Omega was now surrounded by the opposite side from all directions after Dasho. The monk created a net made of those golden Buddha palms. Looks like I walked into an inescapable formation. Well, even so, Sensei taught me exactly how to break free from such a situation, thought Omega. It's time for the second battle strategy, he murmured to himself.
Dai-no-sen.
Omega kept floating steadily in the sky as he was now surrounded by hundreds of 5-meter-tall golden Buddha palms. In contrast, his opponents had surrounded him by different sides with their own offensive abilities. On the left side, Kensei had summoned 3 massive 50-meter-tall Naginatas that let out a greenish hue, its light falling off on the summoned weapons and skills of his other companions, providing them additional buff in their respective attack skills. Shingen, the twin-headed red ogre, roared and put Omega in a dizzy state, the former's war cry disturbing his senses and causing dissonance between the mind and body. Soon, his own size almost doubled as all his muscles and veins became vividly visible, indicating the fact that he had entered his bloodline-related berserk state. At the same moment, swoosh, hundreds of yellow talismans with kanji symbols flew in the sky and surrounded Omega, creating a 2-kilometer radius inescapable net made of fire and lightning that was a saint-rank version of an isolation barrier. Screech. Sizzle. But soon, the air started screeching, filled with a monstrous cry as a massive 8-legged spider apparition appeared in the sky, standing 50 meters tall despite its insectoid figure. Momoko, the spider demon member of the hero's party, had acted for the first time. The humongous spider didn't waste a moment and spewed out a massive smoke of emerald poison, filling and covering the entirety of this newly formed battlefield against Omega. But that was not the end of it. Whoosh! Rumble! Soon, the sky also turned dark and the clouds crackled with lightning bolts. The temperature around the battlefield dropped drastically to -30 degrees in mere seconds as Tomo, the Yukiana, also used her blizzard-causing ability. Had not been for Omega being a saint rank, he would have instantly frozen and crumbled like a sandcastle if he were immortal. This is effective, spoke Omega as he noticed a few things about his own body. Dasho and Isshin had stopped his escape route with their barrier-like abilities. Shingen and Kensei had raised the entire party's overall damage output by using their buff skills of warriors, usually found in knights, tanks, and paladins. Momoko and Tomo, both of whom belonged to unique races and used massive AoE skills, had blocked his sight with the poison fog and hindered his physical movements with the bone-biting blizzard, respectively. Even with Kagura's ability failing to enchant Omega/Raiden, the passive synergy between skills and teamwork she provided amongst her party members was ever so complementing to such an amazing formation. Had I not used the Howl of Chaos in the very beginning, they would have used skills and abilities many times more powerful and life-threatening than this in such team formation. It's enough to rival our Pentagon formation even if it doesn't work on massive attack and magic boost. Such a scenario would be a nightmare even to an enemy who was 2 stages higher than them. I guess not all Heroes party members are incompetent morons. Challenging them so early on was indeed a good decision, thought Omega to himself. The current Omega was far calmer and more composed than before he trained under Miyamoto Musashi, because the old Omega would have already made very strong and flashy attacks to overwhelm his opponents without even thinking of the consequences, like a rabid dog. Ugh! Groaned Omega, and his figure slumped. His eyes started twitching while a visible layer of crystalline ice encompassed his arms and legs. Everyone, it's working. He will soon lose all his motor functions, spoke Kagura with a visibly excited countenance as she looked at Omega becoming weaker with each passing second. Suddenly, Omega's arms started shaking as his senses were dramatically going out of his control. As soon they noticed Omega's arms shaking, all of the Hero of Space's party members knew it was the moment to act. Swoosh! Kensei and Shingen, the main damage dealers and the strongest warriors of the group, quickly made movements. Be wary, he could be acting again, forewarned Kagura. And just as she suspected, the moment Shingen's Kanobo was about to touch Omega/Raiden, the latter quickly tilted to his left and tried to jump and evade the attack. No, you don't, thought Kensei to himself and launched a vertical somersault slashing attack. Bang! A massive shockwave spread across the battlefield as his Naginata hit something hard. Rumble! Even the ground rumbled from shockwaves while the dark clouds in the sky were pushed off just from the shockwaves emerging from the impact. Did we hit him? Questioned Ishin with an anticipating gaze. We definitely did, thought Momoko. But as soon as the cloud of smoke dissipated, all of their gleeful expressions turned gloomy. Ugh! You damn idiot! Said a massive red figure, laying in a crater, devastated by his own friend's powerful attack. The one Kensei hit hard with all his might was none other than Shingen. Meanwhile, the original target of the attack was missing. Where the hell is he? Bellowed Momoko, bewildered and distraught at the same time. Crackle! Suddenly, crackling noises resounded from the back of their team formation. Kaminari Sarashu! Boom! However, before anyone could react, a massive explosion arose from the back of their formation, flinging all of them a few kilometers away. A massive pillar of wind and lightning shook the surroundings, causing devastation like a heavenly tribulation to fall from the sky. No! Screamed Tomo as she noticed the aftermath. Kagura, the fox demon, was taken out in a swift and precise attack while they were distracted. No one even saw how Omega evaded Kensei's attack or how Shingen was brought in his place, leading the latter to bear the brunt of the Naginata's powerful attack. And before they could even notice where he was, Omega had already taken out Kagura, the best buff team member, in a single shot. The battle tactic Omega performed in mere seconds was taught to him by the Sword Saint, developed by his years of experience in dueling skilled samurais. When the enemy attacks, remain undisturbed but feign weakness. As the enemy reaches you, suddenly move away, indicating that you intend to jump aside. Then dash in, attacking strongly as soon as you see the enemy relax. This is one way. Or, as the enemy attacks, attack still more strongly, taking advantage of the resulting disorder in his timing to win. This is the Tai no Sen principle that Omega used. First, he pretended to be weak after their team formation skill surrounded him. When Shingen's Kanobo nearly hit him, he pretended to jump to the left, leading Kensei to act and make him instinctively attack Omega, knowing he would be in his attack range. But right at the last moment, Omega used his gravity law skill called attraction to pull the red Oni in his place while he himself dashed towards a gap in the formation, slashed it apart, and appeared right behind Kagura while everyone was taken aback from the impact at the center of the battlefield. Now, without anyone to protect her, Kagura fell victim to his Kaminari Sarashu skill, the massive 120-meter-long lightning katana. And now her burned fur from her tails became the bed as the fox demon lay unconscious. The entire atmosphere turned grim as soon as they realized that their party's most vital member was taken out by a single opponent before they even noticed anything. As for their fate, they were all on the verge of falling, like the domino effect. After Omega had taken out Kagura, the centerpiece of their team's battle formation with swift and precise attack, the team's overall prowess diminished by a huge margin. Ishin's isolation barrier started cracking, while Dasho's Buddha palms started disappearing, leaving them at half of their previous strength. All of their hearts sank because now they were drastically restricted in terms of the use of their skills. "Good. Stand there like obedient children," spoke Omega menacingly, and his image flickered. Whoosh! Next, Omega's dreary figure, releasing an intense murderous aura, appeared in the middle of the sky, which was already filled with dark clouds and violent lightning bolts. Roar! Omega let out an ear-deafening roar that shook the nearby 5-kilometer radius while two sets of massive red eyes appeared above him. As a result, the entire Hero of Space's party was paralyzed with shock and fear for their life. "System, what ability is that?" asked Khan. The subordinate Omega's awakened Fenrir bloodline has allowed him to merge the Leakin Tyrant's Roar and the Bloodlust skill to form a new legendary rank skill unique only to himself. This ability is called Fenrir's Bloodlust, reported the system. So he has unlocked his bloodline and evolved in a sense that even you could not allow him? Looks like Omega has been training really hard during my absence, thought Khan to himself. Meanwhile, even Ryukin felt a sense of threat as the tattoos of the divine tiger spirit on his hands started growling, raring to fight Omega. Yet, whether in the sky or ground, his allies were frozen and paralyzed in their respective spots, unable to move even an inch due to sheer terror running amok their minds. Rumble! The sky rumbled like a terrifying beast going berserk as Omega/Raiden raised both his katanas upwards. Soon, dozens of lightning bolts fell from the sky and an equal amount of tornadoes formed around the battlefield, dispelling all the poisonous smoke, the blizzard, and the isolation barrier. Omega soon started absorbing that monstrous amount of power from the lightning bolts and tornadoes from the blade of Raijin, while a massive burst of scorching red dragonfire arose from Kaijin. As if this sight was not disastrous enough, right in front of everyone's eyes, Omega started fusing lightning and wind elements from Raijin and the dragonfire from Kaijin into a single 500-meter-long katana that arose in the middle of the sky. This was the technique taught to him by Miyamoto Musashi, which merged the three different elements with different characteristics, power output, and destructive range perfectly. If compared to the most powerful skill of any other fifth-stage saint just similar to Omega/Raiden, even the Hero of Space could tell that this one combined attack was at least 3 times stronger. In simple words, Omega's attack move carried the strength of a proper 6th-stage saint at the bare minimum, if not more. The name of this technique taught to him by Miyamoto Musashi, the sword saint, was Ikamanji. The name translated to straight line through the path of harmony. But it wasn't just the elements used by the user that needed to form a perfect harmonious or synchronous relationship with each other, but it was also the mind and body of the wielder. Even among Miyamoto Musashi's descendants, only 2 people had learned and mastered this skill in the past 500 years after being taught by the sword saint himself. The sight was so horrifying that even Ryukin felt like interfering and stopping him from attacking. And right then, Omega made his move. "Ikamanji! Heavenly strike!" shouted Omega and made a quick vertical slash. Boom! As if a nuclear bomb had dropped, Omega's 500-meter-long katana, carrying the immense destructive force of lightning, wind, and dragonfire, destroyed the nearby 10 kilometers of radius. All the mountains and rivers were razed to smithereens. All the trees were burnt to the point that not even their ashes were left, and all that remained was a sea of fire, blazing the ground while the black smoke rising from it turned the sky even darker. If this was done in a populated place or even a battlefield in Vantria, tens of millions of people would have lost their lives in a single moment, not even letting them realize how they died. In this radius, the party members were heavily injured and most of their bodies were charred black as the entire team was devastated from the attack. Were they not high-ranking saints themselves with armors and attires with defensive powers, all of them would be facing a very dire fate. Omega then spoke in a grim tone. Is that it? Just because I stopped you all from using your most powerful skills, you lot are already at the brink of defeat? I even reduced the power of my dragonfire by 2/3 of its original strength. Spoke Omega, seemingly disappointed. Let me tell you something. This is one of my most basic attack skills. I haven't even gotten serious yet. He declared in a kingly voice. His cold tone sent chills in their minds and body. Even Ryukin was having a hard time accepting the fact that this wasn't Omega's strongest skill but one of the most basic ones. What Omega did just now was implement the third strategy/method of forestalling the enemy taught to him by his master Miyamoto Musashi. Tai Tai no Sen. When the enemy makes a quick attack, you must attack strongly and calmly. Aim for his weak point as he draws near, and strongly defeat him. Or, if the enemy attacks calmly, you must observe his movements and, with your body rather floating, join in with his movements as he draws near. Move quickly and cut him strongly. In these 3 ways of forestalling, you must judge the situation. This does not mean that you always attack first. But if the enemy attacks first, you can lead him around. From the start to this point, Omega had been leading his opponents around by their noses. As the battle continued, "Fine, I shall give you another handicap," said Omega in a playful tone. Snap! With the snap of his fingers, he dissolved the Howl of Chaos skill, and the 30-kilometer-wide radius was now filled with world energy again, lifting the restriction on all of their bodies. Now the hero's party was back at their full strength. Not only did they regain their original strength, but they also started healing very quickly, recovering from those fatal wounds at a visible pace. However, this was not going to be the end of their nightmare. Omega pointed Raijin at the fallen members of the hero's party as he spoke in a domineering as well as excited tone. Now entertain me. The entire hero's party was infuriated. Not because of their pride as the members of the hero's entourage, but because they were supposed to be one of the most elite groups of warriors in the entire empire of space. Yet they were both dominated and humiliated by a single person whom none of them ever even heard of before. And the worst part was that this samurai was fighting in 1 versus 7 battle while giving them handicaps after handicaps. Any powerful warrior worth their salt, who achieved such immense strength through hard work and talent, to be part of the hero's party, would feel like their entire life was a lie when facing such an overwhelmingly powerful opponent. This time, Khan spoke with Ryukin. "Ryukin Dano, are you aware of the 12 Rakshasas?" he asked calmly. "Yes, the direct servants of the Demon Emperor. I heard that all of them are on par with a 7th-stage saint despite being 5th-stage saints themselves. And even among most of the 7th-stage saints, only a few can face and triumph against a member of 12 Rakshasas," responded Ryukin, intrigued by the fact that Byakuya suddenly brought up their name for some reason. "Correct. And other than the heroes with their divine abilities and divine weapons, all of them are said to have the strength to wipe out an entire hero's party on their own," said Khan calmly. Ryukin's countenance shook for a moment as he realized Omega's potential. "So you're saying that Raiden, your samurai, can become as strong as a Rakshasa?" he asked Khan skeptically. "No. Rather, what if I told you that this isn't even half of Raiden's strength?" he responded cheekily. Shocked. The hero of space was thoroughly shocked. "Is he already on par with a 6th-stage saint?" he asked Khan. "Yes. So far, he hasn't even used his domain or his armors that enhance his powers even more," responded Khan, raising Ryukin's interest in Omega even more. What Khan didn't tell the hero of space was that Omega in his true Hrodvitner form was even more powerful than compared to his human one. "How come such a powerful saint follows you and yet no one in the Empire knows? He doesn't seem to be a direct member of the Masamune clan. So what made him pledge his loyalty to you?" asked Ryukin curiously as his heart palpitated. expecting a grand secret to be revealed. "The reason is simple," replied Kon/Byakuya with a gaudy smirk. "It's because I'm stronger than him." After the second round between Omega and Hero of Space's party began, the battlefield was filled with palpitating tension. "All of you, this is the most humiliating battle I've experienced in my life. Even losing the battle to become the official successor of my clan hadn't hurt my pride such as this. And to make it worse, I feel like he hasn't even used his full strength. I would have understood and accepted our current predicament had he been a chosen hero with divine abilities. But what's more infuriating is that he is just a mere servant of that arrogant bastard who disrespected us so openly. How am I to ever raise my head with pride again if we still lose to Raiden?" spoke Kensei as his right hand trembled and his aura rose along with his fury. This emotion of revolt was shared by most of his companions. Other than Dasho, the Buddhist monk, everyone else was losing their mind. That's not all of it. The murderous aura he previously released. It felt like I was facing a primordial beast whose existence could devour me entirely should I come into its sight. Never before my instincts have told me to run for my life so alarmingly. Even after I have recovered my full powers, I am afraid to face him," said Isshin the Onmyoji. "While I agree with both of you, it is imperative that we win. Even if we have to fight with the intent to kill. And if we won, I don't think my pride as a warrior will be able to accept it. For the first time, I feel ashamed of myself," said Shingen as he clutched his kanobo and both of his heads revealed nothing but guilt. "One must come to accept that life leads all on a different path. No one owes it to the world to live by its rules. For one must reach the summit on their own merits and time," responded Dasho with a quaint smile despite his disheveled state. As a monk, he did not abhor Omega but rather acknowledged his might as a superior warrior instead of feeling overwhelmed. For some, a battle was a test of strength. For some, it was an opportunity to triumph and achieve greatness. But some very rare individuals did not have a competitive mindset. Rather, they welcomed and grew from experience, enjoying the journey along the way. Dasho was of that last rare mindset while others were the former two kinds. "Everyone, we're at a stage where there is no room left for failure or even a reason to hold back. If he dies in the process, that is his fate," declared Kagura as she clenched her fist in shame so hard that her long nails stabbed her hand and started bleeding. "For once, I agree with this bewitching fox. I also do not enjoy being thrashed around. Usually I get to play with men like these, but he's too wild even for me," spoke Momoko in a seductive and playful tone, hiding her bloodthirsty killing intent behind her beautiful smile. "It is settled then. We need to use the last resort if we want to win. I hope that Ryukin-sama will not hate me for participating in this," said Tomo, the Yukiana, worrying more about her image in Ryukin's eyes than feeling anger towards Omega. The member of the Hero of Space's party had their own individual mindsets, emotions, and priorities even if they acted unified. Unlike Kon and his subordinates, they only had a pretense to shadow their different opinions as a team. Kagura then looked at Omega, who hovered high in the sky, and declared with a serious and vengeful tone, "Deploy the sanguine formation of death." After losing to Omega/Raiden on every front as individuals and as a team, companions of the Hero of Space decided to go for their most powerful and the most deadly option to avoid the shame of losing. One after another, all of them took out a red glowing orb from their space rings and pricked their left thumb on the needle at the top. "Activate the sanguine formation of death," spoke all of them in unison. Meanwhile, Ryukin Sasakaibe, the Hero of Space, had a harrowed countenance. "Stop this madness. This is just a parley match. There's no need for you to go that far," he shouted from 20 kilometers away as he and Kon/Byakuya saw the battle. "What is this? Some kind of battle formation artifact?" asked Kon curiously while stroking his chin. "This is one of the most ancient battle net formations created by the founding generation of this empire. At this rate, your samurai will die," warned Ryukin with an anxious face. "Is that so? Then I'd like to see if Raiden can hold off against something so notorious," he said with an anticipating smile. "Is this man crazy? I'm telling him that his vassal could die and he's finding the situation amusing? Thought Ryukin to himself. Alas, he had no idea that even if Omega somehow died, Khan could revive him in a week with his divine ability and the system. At the same time on the battlefield, 7 massive sanguine-colored apparitions, each towering up to 1 kilometer in height, arose and created a spherical formation on all sides by creating 5 kilometers of distance from each other. These apparitions were the ginormous-sized versions of the hero of space's companions. From the spiraling blood-red aura these figures emanated, millions of web-like strands of world energy spread around, covering the sky and forming a sea of blood while creating a massive barrier with the total span of 35 kilometers. Even Ryukin and Byakuya had to move away to not get caught in this formation. Shoot! From each titanic apparition, a straight horizontal line of ethereal energy shot and hit Omega, freezing his body as if time itself was frozen. Despite Omega's unfathomable reaction speed, he was unable to dodge this beam for some reason. Ugh! Groaned Omega as he felt his body losing his access to world energy. Blurk! All of a sudden, Omega started throwing up blood and multiple lacerations appeared on his body, as if dozens of invisible sharp blades cut him. Drip! His wounded figure started bleeding profusely, but the blood didn't drop on the ground. Rather, the drops were pulled and absorbed by the red glowing orbs that were in the hands of Hero of Space's companions. Warning! The subordinate Omega has lost 80% of his physical and magical stats, making him comparable to a first-stage saint. Reported the system. What the hell? They have a formation like this which drops a target's overall strength by a whopping 80%. This is beyond most legendary rank magic formation. Only something such as an ancient rank artifact like the Warhorn of Confinement can surpass it. Thought Khan to himself. A monk, a 9-tailed fox, a snow demon, a ginormous spider with 8 pair of legs, a man with samurai armor, a man with hundreds of talismans floating around him, and finally, a twin-headed Oni became visible, each as big as a mountain on their own. The scale of the battlefield was so stupidly wide and absurdly large that one would think that this was a battle between gods. As the scene unfolded, Ryukin had a distraught and ugly expression. This formation comes at a huge price. It may be affecting the enemy the most, but it also drains the life force of all users through those orbs. Their world energy is also being eaten away, and the most they can do is maintain it for 5 minutes. But after the time ends, all of them will be unable to use their skills and world energy while dropping to the rank of a semi-saint for an entire week. This is why it's our last resort. One variable can end up in the death of all of the parties involved. And then there's Raiden. He may not even be able to live before the formation ends. Thought Ryukin to himself, dejected by the current predicament. At the same time, this feeling, it reminds me a lot about the time when Master and I fought Skoll and Hattie a couple of years ago. We could barely move and were heavily overwhelmed by the opponent's side. Spoke Omega with a light chuckle as he understood that he was now a mere first-stage saint. In this setting, any fatal wound from the opponents was enough to kill a single target even if they were a saint. Because the rank and attack capabilities of the opponents was so powerful that even they would not be able to control their strength and end up killing the target even if they didn't wish to. Looks like I have no other choice then. Unfortunately, their formation has no effect on my bloodline. He said and let out a devilish smirk. Our successor, with your bloodline finally awakening and you becoming a 5th-stage saint. You can use our powers at the fullest even if your physical prowess has been sealed. Said Skoll in Omega's mind. Ah, I see. I guess I have no choice now. Replied Omega. Yes. Fight the absurd powers with your own absurd methods. Spoke Hattie in Omega's mind, telling him to go all out. Then I shall do as you say, my mentors. Responded Omega. Boom! Right in the middle of the battle formation that painted the sky sanguine red and turned the ground into a sea of blood. A pillar of silver aura shot upwards and soon, the intricate web of blood started shirking. Shing! Even the companions of the hero felt a sense of dread despite having the upper hand at the moment. And finally, a figure emitting a silver aura appeared at the center. In the following moments, a man in pristine white armor suddenly appeared. His black arm remained the same and his right leg also turned black, but this time, There was blue fire coming out of the corners. Along with these two noticeable changes, some parts of the armor also turned black. Around his right shoulder was the head of a white wolf, while the left shoulder was covered in fur. In the meantime, the eyes turned bright blue in this transformation. As for the head, it was covered in a white wolf mask, completely hiding his face. After many years, Omega was using one of his strongest forms, the moonlight armor. As everyone's eyes shook in disbelief, the supposed target of this inescapable battle formation was now freed from the invisible cage. While using moonlight armor, now subordinate Omega's speed and dexterity stats have increased by 1000%. Informed the system to Khan. What? Wasn't that just 3 times before? Asked Khan in disbelief. The additional effect is caused because of the awakened Fenrir bloodline by the subordinate Omega. Reported the system. Means his present speed and agility stat was no different than that of a second-stage saint. Previously, due to his unawakened Fenrir bloodline, he could use the armor to increase his speed by 300% at most. But now, instead of 3 times, it was 10 times. In other words, a beginner 5th-stage saint like Omega would be able to match the speed and agility of a peak 7th-stage saint since each rank was 5 times stronger than the previous one. So his overall speed was now on par with a peak 3rd-stage saint. Thought Khan as he paid attention to the battlefield intently. This power does come at a cost. The problem is that his physical defense is now non-existent. If an attack skill managed to destroy the moonlight armor and hurt the subordinate Omega, he would die on the spot regardless of his rank. To put it simply, subordinate Omega is no different than a glass cannon at this moment. Summarize the system. But what both system and Khan didn't know, the Omega before being trained by Miyamoto Musashi would have failed to overcome this drawback in this particular situation since he was reduced to the level of a 1st-stage saint. However, being the disciple of the Sword Saint, he had learned skills of his own that even Khan could not help him acquire. Crackle. The previously encompassing sanguine red aura that caused dozens of lacerations on Omega's body was now completely gone. Omega also regenerated very quickly due to his Fenrir bloodline becoming fully active. Although I'm still 2 ranks below my original strength, with Sensei's teachings and techniques, it should be enough. After all of them can help me fight those who are 2 ranks above me. Spoke Omega softly and with determined eyes as he clutched Raijin and Kaijin tightly in his hands. But on the other side at the same moment, what the hell is happening? How come he has broken through the blood extraction circle? All the time we used this before, not even a mythical rank monster was able to break free from it. On top of it, he did it in mere seconds. Said Kagura to her companions with a contorted face because of the backlash they received due to their skill breaking. Hey, is that what you're worried about? None of us can move outside of these gigantic constructs when using the formation. His transformed state has clearly given him room to move freely. Even if he's now reduced to a 1st-stage saint, he can still attack us with no interruptions. Replied Ishin, analyzing the situation quickly as the magic expert of the team. So what? The weakest member of our team is a 4th-stage saint. No mere 1st-stage saint can even touch us, much less harm us. His strongest attacks won't even scratch us. Responded Shingen. Enemy. Terrifying. Said Tomo the Yukiana. She's stammering, means he's dangerous. Her senses have never been wrong before. Every time her innate bloodline tells her that the enemy is powerful, she starts stammering her words. Spoke Momoko with an incredulous countenance. Let's see what happens now. Although we can't move anymore, we can still use our respective attacks and defensive skills without a problem. Suggested Kensei. The nigh-powerful sanguine formation of death was a sure-shot killing artifact, worthy of its namesake. However, it came with restrictions of its own. Apart from the detrimental conditions, Ryukin told Khan. The use of this battle formation using the artifact also sealed the multiple users who sacrificed their blood, life force, and world energy for it to seal and kill a single powerful target. And with this rearrangement of roles, the battle restarted. Swoosh! Omega raised Raijin and diverted his gaze towards the mountain-tall apparition of Dasho, the Buddhist monk. The reason why he targeted the monk this time was due to him having the most defensive skills and could be considered as the main tank class member of the hero's party. Rumble. Soon, the sky darkened and rumbled as a tornado formed around his body, and a massive lightning bolt dropped on him. However, it neither clashed nor hurt Omega. Rather, the entire lightning bolt and the high wind pressure tornado were both absorbed by Raijin in a single second. Omega took a deep breath and focused his sight on the monk. He then slowly made a vertical slashing movement with his right hand. Lunar Fang Strike. Omega used his signature attack skill that could be activated only while using the moonlight armor. Bang! Without even realizing how it happened, the titanic form of Dasho was hit with an invisible force, and soon, the place of impact crackled with lightning bolts and wind blades. Crack! The 1-kilometer-tall monolithic apparition was struck so hard that it got pushed away 100 meters despite being so heavy and enormous. Hundreds of cracks formed on its structure as if an invisible blade almost split it in half. Blurg! Blood sprouted forth from Dasho's body over the torso region as he too suffered visible damage, and a massive wound appeared on his stomach. It was exactly the place where Omega's Lunar Fang Strike attack struck the gigantic apparition. It meant two things. The user of the orb suffered the same damage as the titanic apparition, and the massive target could be damaged from any physical as well as ranged attack skill. Although my agility and dexterity have increased by 10 times, my attack stats are the same as the first stage saint. Even with the Lunar Fang Strike, I can't defeat one opponent in a single strike because of my diminished rank. However, it doesn't mean that I can't keep attacking them with the same skill again and again. Thought Omega with a vicious smile. Whoosh! Just right then, something unbelievable happened. One after another, Omega's image appeared in front of all 7 members of the hero's party as Omega started targeting them. Slash! Boom! And before any of them could grasp the situation, Omega, who was covering a circumference of 35 kilometers, was attacking all the humongous structures dozens of times with the Lunar Fang Strike from different directions and angles. Despite his rank as a first-stage saint, his combination of 10 times the speed, his consecutive attacks, and the combined strength of lightning and wind elements overwhelm his opponents. Xing! All of them started using their respective defensive skills and barriers to protect themselves while throwing up blood because of Omega's deadly attacks. Because their life force and world energy were being sucked by the orb artifacts which helped them maintain the sanguine formation of death. The energy they expended to protect themselves and heal their injuries was doubled. It had been just 1 minute since Omega used the moonlight armor, but they were already on the brink of being mortally wounded, all of them profusely bleeding. Brought down to your knees by a warrior who is many times weaker than all of you. If it was me, I would commit seppuku, declared Omega, openly mocking his opponents. The rank, the levels, the stats, and the difference between the ranks of saints seemed to no longer apply as things beyond logic were occurring in front of them. Half the job is done. Now time to finish the rest, said Omega, and this time, a scarlet-red aura arose from his body. Boom! The massive pillar of aura spread forth and incinerated the battlefield in a 5-kilometer radius. The following second, Omega's entire body was covered in black and red flames. Unlike before, there was a hint of chaotic aura filled with bloodlust emitting from him. The surroundings were suddenly filled with an oppressive force that made everyone feel like they were drowning underwater. And finally, his personage appeared from within the massive pillar of fire. Omega, now donned in black and red armor, silver hair, and a black wolf mask with white fangs on it, was revealed to them. On his left shoulder was a head of a black wolf, while the other one was covered in black fur. Raijin had also gone through another transformation as the white and blue blade had turned black and fiery red in this new form. This time it was the left arm and leg that was on scarlet red fire around the corners, while Kaijin emitted intense flames as the entire blade itself looked as hot as magma. In contrast to the previous form, his eyes glowed dark red, even more menacing than his human form. This was his second and most destructive form, the Twilight Armor. The temperature of the nearby 15-kilometer radius rose by 50 degrees Celsius instantly as Omega/Raiden took upon his Twilight Armor form after many years. Now, Omega quickly switched Raijin with Kaijin as his main weapon. Boom! A massive aura of crimson-red dragonfire rose from his katana, sending shockwaves. A dreary feeling etched into everyone's hearts regardless of the distance they stood apart. The subordinate Omega's attack stat has been increased by 1000%. However, his agility and dexterity have dropped by 90%. Informed the system. Wait, why did he switch? He can finish this battle with moonlight armor alone. Asked Khan. The system detects that the subordinate Omega has a 5-minute usage restriction when using the awakened Fenrir bloodline. Half the time has gone and the remaining is being used for the twilight armor by the subordinate. At his full capacity as a 5th stage saint, the subordinate would be able to activate the bloodline for 50 minutes. Reported the system. So he got nerfed because of the sanguine formation of death that made him comparable to 1st stage saint. Yet he is still fighting vigorously. The Howl of Chaos, then both Moonlight and Twilight armor, and also the beginner version of the World Devourer. I guess using these OP powers does come with a price for the current Omega. If only he had the 100% Fenrir bloodline, he could absolutely dominate a battlefield with nothing holding him back. Thought Khan to himself. Although his speed was reduced by 90%, even Khan knew how devastating an attack made with Twilight armor and Kaijin that carried the dragonfire would be to any enemy regardless of their rank. Swoosh! Omega flew slowly and stopped in front of Kagura's massive 9-tailed fox apparition as he smirked underneath his black wolf mask. Soon, the crimson-red dragonfire flamed even more violently and Kagura's entire visage was shocked as a sense of nigh annihilation dawned upon her. Heaven's subjugation, said Omega and quickly swung his katana in a vertical slash. Black Fang Strike. Bang. Unlike before with the Lunar Fang Strike, this time, the whole 3 kilometer of space was pulverized as Omega's devastating blow incinerated the 1 kilometer tall titanic figure in a single strike. Sizzle. As soon as the fire subsided and the destroyed landscape became visible, amidst the scalding dragonfire, remained Kagura, fainted on the spot. Ack! Blurg! Now that one of the holders of the artifact was completely out of commission and the apparition that acted like one of the key pillars was gone, everyone else suffered a grievous injury as a backlash of the formation being discontinued. At this moment, none of them could get out of their respective towering apparitions. Swoosh! There appeared Omega, merciless as usual, and made sure to pick up and carry behind his previous victim. Ishin was now cowering in fear for his life as he saw Kagura floating behind Omega. Please stop, he pleaded Omega/Raiden. What's the matter? Since you can't come out of that cage, I'm only trying to help, declared Omega with a sinister countenance. Boom! Another reputation of the previous scenario occurred as Omega took down the Onmyoji in a single strike. He then picked up Ishin and went to target others as they helplessly waited, rooted in their spots as the impending doom came for all of them. And just right after Omega was done, his bloodline transformation ended. Meanwhile, for the first time in history, someone had broken through this legendary rank battle formation despite being underpowered by 4 saint ranks. But what the hero of space and his party members didn't know was that the one to destroy it so effortlessly was none other than the current disciple of Miyamoto Musashi, the Sword Saint. And now, he regained his strength as a proper 5th stage saint. Now, just a light attack from his sword was enough to kill all the hero's party members. He then used his world energy and supplied it to the party members, helping them wake up from their sorry state. Finally, Omega spoke with a smirk. I'm entertained. But soon his expression turned cold. You had no problem to do whatever it took to for the sake of victory. I beat you all with my overwhelming might but didn't go as far as wanting to kill you. However, being brought on the verge of death by that formation of yours has left a bitter taste in my mouth. I reckon it is appropriate to return such goodwill. He spoke in a grim and deathly tone. Shing! The 35-kilometer radius froze and thousands of boulders were lifted in the sky. The clouds also froze in their spots as the volatile lightning bolts bombarded these boulders, creating a scenario of natural disaster. What the hell is this? Why can't we move anymore? Said Shingen as an invisible but incredibly heavy force froze their bodies. I sense a law of reality merged into his domain. spoke Ishin with a petrified countenance. Ryukin as the bystander saw that and was perplexed. That isn't the space law, the only law of reality that can achieve a similar feat. It's the gravity law. All of them were shocked to the core, including the hero of space, because for the first time during this fight, Omega activated the gravity domain. How come your samurai has mastered the gravity law that even magic classes don't even dare to practice? Asked Ryukin to Kon/Byakuya. Kon shrugged his hands and replied nonchalantly, "Didn't I already say that he can be as strong as a Rakshasa? Don't they all use particular laws of reality as part of their domain as well?" Replied Kon/Byakuya as if he was boasting shamelessly. On the battlefield, Omega used his gravity law skills on the boulders into the sky and started rotating them like bullets, ready to be launched at his targets. Beads of sweat appeared on the hero's companions as they were all gathered together, witnessing the wrath of the samurai they had undermined and scorned just hours ago. "I call this move Starfall Rampage," declared Omega as the rotating boulders now started turning red because of the high speed and friction, mimicking meteors falling from space. That day, without even knowing, Omega gained another moniker that the hero of Space's party would always remember him by. The moniker being Starscourge Raiden. Resembling the skies and moon during the twilight, the meteoric shower created by Omega suddenly started crackling violently as his newly developed skill called Starfall Rampage was moments away from attacking the gathered and frozen bodies of the hero of Space's companions. Their harrowed expressions and palpitating hearts indicated the dire fate that would soon befall them all. With every breath they took and the heartbeats that went awry at the moment, the time itself felt like passing slowly as they resigned themselves to Omega/Raiden's last decisive attack. Soon, Omega declared as his visage stood among the rumbling lightning bolts, the typhoons, and the supercharged meteors. "Begotten are the times for mercy, for there is mercy in death. Befall the cry of the stars. The power I hold to seal the fate of wars. Shoot!" Like ginormous laser beams shot from the Death Star, the Starfall Rampage attacked the stunned opponents. Boom! A meteoric shower struck the battlefield, devastating a 5-kilometer radius as Omega did not show any mercy to his opponents and fully intended to kill them on the spot. Sizzle! It took 10 whole minutes for the cloudy and dusty battlefield to disperse as thousands of deep craters formed on the battlefield, forming hundreds of 50-meter deep holes. This was neither a spell nor it was an illusion. In this state, millions would be simply obliterated without even leaving a shred of their bones or blood. The heat alone would evaporate the blood and turn the bodies into ashes. However, one spot emerged above the rest, untouched by this devastating attack that could even kill a 5th-stage saint. Swoom! A 10-meter radius came into sight as all the members of the hero's party emerged unharmed. But just above them appeared a man with a glowing violet-colored katana, carrying an ethereal energy. Sizzle! But unlike the others on the ground, his right hand was charred and the blade of the katana was blistering red, showing that this savior himself was grievously injured while blocking Omega's ultimate attack skill. "It's enough. There is no need to go further," spoke this tall, handsome man. The hero of space, Sasakai Ryukin, had interfered and saved his friend at the last moment. "Ryukin-sama, you are well aware that interfering in the duel of samurai is one of the worst kinds of disrespect one could commit. It is akin to dishonoring the pride of the warriors involved, whether the winner or the loser. You deny me a worthy victory and them an honorable death," scoffed Omega while controlling his displeasure. "I understand your discontent, but this bout was only about testing each other's mettle. There is no reason for you to go as far as to kill them," spoke the hero of space in a stern tone. "So does that mean this duel ends with my victory?" asked Omega in a sardonic tone. Ryukin turned his head and glanced at his companions who were still shaken up by the impact from Starfall Rampage. Watching his judgmental look, all of them bowed their heads in shame, accepting their collective defeat at the hands of Omega/Raiden. "The victory is yours," announced Ryukin. Meanwhile, his charred arm healed itself while the tattoos on his arms glowed red. "Good. I shall follow your decision as the contestant of this duel. However, spoke Omega in a grim tone, and the very next second. Bang! Omega quickly attacked Ryukin with his weapons, his katanas clashing against that of the hero. Bark! The sparks from their collision spread in the vicinity, and the shockwaves alone raised a massive cloud of dust in 100-meter radius. I did not take you for a hypocrite, Ryukin Dano. Discover hidden stories at Empire. You felt no need to stop them when they drew the first blood by using that formation. But you suddenly felt the need to stop the bloodshed as soon as your own companions' lives were at hell's door. I cannot respect such a man with double standards, proclaimed Omega as his red glowing eyes released his full aura of a 5th stage saint. This guy, he's just a beginner 5th stage saint, but his physical strength alone is matching mine, thought Ryukin as he struggled to stop Omega's retaliation. Heresy! You dare attack Hiro-sama? Bellowed Kagura. This is treason. Do you want to die? Shouted Kensei. The others also shouted, unable to fathom this shocking scene. Shut up, you damn pests. Stay there quietly, lest I end up killing you all accidentally, retorted Omega while his gaze was fixated on Ryukin. For some reason, Omega was thoroughly enraged to a point beyond where even Kon was surprised. The old Omega would not have let go of any provocations or insults directed at Kon unless the latter himself stopped him. However, he was also not the kind to ignite such fierce confrontations by acting impulsively. System, what's happening? Why is Omega reacting so vengefully? Asked Kon. The system detects that the subordinate Omega has fully developed his personality. The majority of his character traits gravitate towards the honor, order, laws, and respect of the hierarchy, akin to a samurai. The subordinate's reaction seems deeply affected by these emotions that are driven by his free will. Reported the system. The hell? Did this happen because he was trained by Miyamoto-sensei? To develop his own personality to such an extent, he must have gone through some strict teachings of these character traits, speculated Kon. But now that the situation had turned dire in just mere moments, he quickly focused on the skirmish below. I order you to stop, Raiden. Although I understand your anger, you should not forget who I am and what your place is, replied Ryukin as he too raised his saint pressure, thwarting off Omega's. Oh, is that so? Then why don't you show me what my place is? Taunted Omega. At this moment, these newfound emotions in him were dictating both his body and mind, affecting his rationality while encouraging his animalistic instincts. Boom! Omega was shoved a few kilometers away in the sky as Ryukin was also enraged after this open challenge to his authority for the first time ever since he was summoned in Vantria. At the core, Ryukin was a royalty himself in his original world. So no matter how reasonable he was, such an act was no different than open hostility to him. Showing hostility towards the royalty always ended with one punishment, death. Then I will show you where we stand. He spoke in a wrathful tone. Shing! A visible violet energy merged with his katana as he channeled his own version of Space Force. Adding his strength as a 6th-stage saint into the equation, it was a full-blown killing skill in preparation. Swing! Ryukin made a quick horizontal slash, and a violet blade made of Space Force launched itself at Omega while tearing apart the space-time continuum. The devastating slashing attack tore apart reality itself as the space around Omega also froze. Ryukin had sealed the space around Omega, making him unable to move or even dodge this incoming attack. Even though the effect wouldn't last for long, it was enough to land a certain hit. It was this very moment where it became evident was the space law was superior to the gravity law. What became apparent in that second was Omega's death at the hands of the hero of space. Clang! However, just as the lethal space blade was about to hit Omega and cut him in half, a figure appeared in front of Omega, and a man in a black hakama with a headband covering his left eye stood with a stoic countenance. Even though he spoke with lack of respect, what he said was indeed true. My samurai won against your companions while they attempted to take his life. By doing so, they already broke the rules of the duel that you set. And we all know that the party breaking rules is deserving of death in duels of the samurais. So not only your people broke the law, you're persecuting my samurai for carrying out their deserved punishment. Spoke this man after he deflected that terrifying space blade with just the sheath of his katana. What kind of lord would I be if I let go of such distasteful conduct just because they're the hero's companions and you're a chosen one? Spoke Khan/Byakuya in a dreary voice. As their leaders, it's given that we settle these matters, Ryukendano. He spoke and flicked the hilt of his katana with his left thumb. This time it was Khan, full of anger as he declared domineeringly, "Let's fight." As Khan in his Byakuya persona challenged Ryuken, the hero of space, to a fight, thousands of kilometers away, in a great forested region, a macabre scene came into sight. Hundreds of burning huts within a settlement located among canyons and mountains colored the surroundings dark yellow. The sky turned dark from the ashes and smoke while thousands of horrifying screams echoed. In the sky was a warship with the insignia of a monastery that served a certain god. The dozens of flying ships had surrounded this burning settlement and cast multiple isolation and illusion barriers that stopped the outside interference. What the hell is that bastard doing? Why is he just sitting there instead of joining us? Spoke a priest in white and green robes, carrying a carved artifact that represented their monastery and their god. Let him be. He may be tired after his battle. Besides, it's not like that fire could kill a powerful saint like him. Spoke a holy paladin-class warrior who saw this scene of a horrific massacre from the warship. Among the burning huts was a tall tower set atop a small peak, stemmed from the natural mountainous terrain. And on top of this watchtower sat a man in a black cloak while wearing a black straw hat. Watching these people dying so helplessly, maybe that's why Master has set limits on the kind of work we do and the kind we should avoid. He spoke despondently. Just a couple of months ago, I could only extract the souls of the people I have killed and use them to nourish my own to break through ranks. The stronger the opponent, the more rewarding their soul. However, it almost lost its use because I wasn't killing saints or legendary rank monsters ever since Master's original body left. Before, it was just me pulling souls out of corpses. But now that I have become an apostle, I can see them. He declared while people below were running for their lives, getting flayed alive from the fire. People say death is only for the mortal body, but true death is the destruction of the soul. Explore more stories at Empire. Unlike before, I hear their cries and roars of anguish. Now I can feel their torment, their helplessness, and even their rage towards the world. Spoke this mysterious entity clad in black. Among these people crying for help and running for their lives were hundreds of burning corpses. However, even those from the warship could not see the souls of the deceased hovering over them. Mother, mother, where are you? I'm scared. I'm scared. Spoke the soul of a human child as he stood beside his own burning flesh. No, brother. Don't abandon me. Help me. Somebody help me. Bellowed a man's soul as he begged for help as his body was stuck below burning logs of wood. My son. My sweet child. Cried a woman as she saw her corpse, cradling her newborn child. No. I can't die here. I have a family to protect. Screamed a man's soul who had died trying to help people run to safety. Is this how it ends despite all the hard work I have done my entire life? Is this how me and my people, who have been oppressed for decades, die? Spoke an elderly man's soul as it looked over hundreds of people dying. What wrong did we do to deserve such a cruel death? We did not harm anyone. We were alone in these woods, cut off from the world. But why did they massacre us? Is it just because we worshipped a different god? He asked, his voice filled with plight. This elderly man's soul then set its gaze on this mysterious black-cloaked man. It's because of you. All of this happened because of you. He bellowed in rage and hatred towards this man wearing the black straw hat. On the other end, the target of fury heard those words of the dead, stunned and paralyzed by the grim side of reality. He had his fair share of death and war. Yet, it was the first time he could see the souls of the deceased. He had been hearing and feeling their hatred towards the wrongful deaths. If this is how I feel and have to go through every time, what about the entity who gave me these powers? He chose me as his apostle and gave me his blessings. a manifested form of his powers. So does he have to go through the same suffering and listen as well as feel everything every time someone dies and their souls are sent to the afterlife? He questioned while lamenting. The assassin who witnessed the current massacre and helpless cries for help was Ronin, one of Khan's generals and his left-hand man. In a way, Ronin was the reason behind this brutal massacre. It all started just a few days ago when the Imperial forces gave the Misthios Mercenary Guild a top-secret commission. This was the kind of work the Imperial Army did not want to get their hands bloodied with for some reason. At the southwest end of the Zivit Empire was an indigenous tribe of nomads that recently came in contact with the Empire's authorities. It wasn't a completely unknown tribe to their imperial rule, but unlike before, something had changed. Just a couple of weeks ago, their spies found that this tribe somehow had a saint. A shaman-class saint at that. Normally, raising a saint was something only done by the nobles, thriving clans, top business enterprises, and the imperial families and their forces. So this news was a huge surprise. But everything changed after one of the spies found out that they had started worshipping a meteor that fell from the sky. They were now treating it as a mountain god and created a tradition to worship it, such as rituals and offerings to get the blessing of the god. Some of the imperial authority personnel speculated that this rock was the reason why there was suddenly a saint among this indigenous tribe, and the unknown energy emitted by the meteor rock was the reason. However, this tribe of thousands and their devotion to this rock as a god was by definition an act of heresy. As one of the outcrying souls mentioned before, they were attacked and killed for worshipping another god. Because an empire where everyone had accepted god of life, Jivenimas, as their sole god. So a tribe suddenly starting to treat an outside entity or object as a god was blasphemy to them. However, after deploying their own forces to deal with this matter, a bloody battle ended with their defeat. The first time, a noble house sent their third stage saint to stop the tribe from their devotion, by trying to subdue their saint and punishing their members. However, not only did their newly ascended first stage saint manage to kill that saint, but also quickly broke through to second stage saint in just a week. Next time, it was an imperial adjudicator, a fourth stage saint summoner who was dispatched. But just like before, he too was killed and the shaman now ascended to fourth stage saint rank. A virtually impossible feat because every rank ascension needed years for the next breakthrough. Yet all of it could be explained if it had something to do with the meteoric rock. So the imperial authorities wanted to acquire and test it for themselves, to use its powers, which would greatly bolster their forces. However, after the previous two deaths, no one among royalists or nobles wanted to risk their lives. They would at least need a fifth stage saint to deal with this matter, but a person like that was a great asset and usually part of the reigning authority. They couldn't just order them to risk their life given their status and influence. Hence, they contacted Misthios given their recent track record as members of the Hero of Life's party during the Conclave of Heroes. Khan in his Legolas persona gave this task to Ronin in particular because of his true evolution form of Thanatos. One of his abilities allowed him to basically cheat death by temporarily acquiring another body. Hence, he was the most suited. After Ronin came here, using the Shinigami armor and Erebus daggers, Ronin finished the job by killing the shaman and found out that it was the rock with strange powers that helped him bypass his limits but at the cost of his lifespan. The shaman, who was originally 60 years old and appeared like a tall lion, was reduced to a scrawny rat-like personage despite becoming a fourth stage saint. This was the same old man who was blaming Ronin for this massacre. But soon afterward he was done. A secret force serving the imperial family arrived and started this massacre to keep the rock's existence a secret. Ronin's original orders were to kill the shaman saint and let the imperial authorities take over the matter as per their contract. So he could not have predicted that these people, who also included people from the monastery that served the god of life, would start a wanton massacre by setting the entire settlement on fire and caging all these innocent tribe members inside isolation and illusion barriers, stopping their means of escape. Only fire can cleanse such foul stench of blasphemy, spoke a high priest with a holy book in his hand but an excited smile on his face. On the surface, it was an act of heresy, so they were being exterminated. But in reality, Ronin knew that this was nothing but a power play of greed and authority. In the end, God was but a tool to justify the evil of men. Ronan stood amongst the chaos filled with death and destruction and simply watched as the secret Imperial squad brutally and mercilessly massacred the indigenous tribe folks in the name of vanquishing heathens. Who knew what the Imperial family would do with the rock? But as a hired professional, he could not intervene and silently watch from afar as thousands of innocent lives were exterminated just for having something the people in power wanted to maintain their authority. Being born of different race, skin color, species, or having different religious beliefs. There were tons of reasons and excuses one could use to persecute or steal from the weak. But in the end, it was and always has been about greed and controlling the world around you. Before, I never felt anything. I have only existed to serve my Lord's will ever since I was created. I've never felt any form of empathy for anyone. I've killed those who I was ordered to and spared those who I had no choice but to. Yet, I've never sympathized with the pain of others or felt the need to care about it, he said in a contemplating tone. But now that I can feel their emotions, it makes me wonder, what am I? Questioned Ronan as he sensed the last breath taken by the only remaining tribesman. With this, the terrifying fire snuffed out all the witnesses as the Imperial squads accomplished their mission. Am I just a slave of my creator? A tool for murder? Or am I just a husk of a soulless and a mindless puppet? He questioned himself. After the fire was snubbed using water magic and only the crisp corpses and blackened remains of the tribe settlements became visible, the holier-than-thou squads moved to complete their next objective. Dozens of sealing artifacts, magic formations, and holy spells were used as warriors, mages, and priests did their part to conceal the meteor to secure it safely. A squad of the Imperial squads put the rock in a massive chest and started carrying it towards a platform that descended from the warship. Ronan kept his silence and did not try to get involved in any way, only watching from the side as he saw the glimmering shine of the meteor. Shing! But right after the chest carrying the rock passed by Ronan, the nearby surroundings started vibrating as if an earthquake was on the way. Boom! Suddenly, the chest burst open, breaking all the formations, artifacts, and spells placed upon it. Suddenly, the rock started shaking and trembling and released a deathly aura that quickly dispersed in a 2-kilometer radius. Arg! What's happening? No, my body. One after another, regardless of their class or rank, the rock started sucking out the life squad of all the priests, assassins, and magicians, as well as all the souls of the deceased tribe members. Help us, mercenary! Bellowed a high priest of the Imperial squad. Swoosh! Ronan appeared in front of the rock with a lifeless expression. And why should I? He asked the priest as the latter's body started getting dry from the inside. My task was to only kill the shaman. Just as I was not allowed to interfere in the Imperial squad's actions, I'm also not obligated to help you from the consequences caused by them, said Ronan in a despondent tone. Unlike others, he did not feel fear or was affected by the rock in any way. Rather, he felt a sense of calling from it, as if the rock was yearning for Ronan and he felt the strange powers from the meteor were already part of him. What would Master have done in my place? He asked himself. Shatter. Boom! Suddenly, the rock burst out, incinerating everything that came in contact. Find exclusive stories on Empire. The burst of energy blew up everything within the 2-kilometer radius, and even the massive warship and a few airships that carried the platoon of priests, assassins, and warriors serving the Imperial army were completely obliterated. 10 minutes later, the once lush and full of life valley was long gone, and only a massive 300 meters deep spherical crater remained. However, Ronan was left untouched, not even a scratch on his body or the clothes. You're the same as me, aren't you? He spoke while intently gazing at the purple core of the meteor that remained in the end. You don't have a life of your own, a will of your own. You don't know what you are and what's your purpose. I have only followed orders because I was created by my master. Yet, I'm not sure if servitude is the entire reason for my existence. He spoke with a calm demeanor. Ronan silently watched as his personality suddenly underwent a massive change at this moment. Let's find out together, he said and picked up the meteor. Avenge us. Punish them. Destroy this wicked and unjust world. One after another, Ronin suddenly started hearing all these thousands of souls, feeling their torment, their rage, and their contempt towards the world that killed them despite being innocent and harmless. The meteor had absorbed only the souls of the tribe members and left the ones from the Imperial squad as if it was offering salvation to the innocent and condemning the wicked. Rumble. Shriek. The rock let out a shriek of its own, and the surging purple light was absorbed by Ronin. Afterward, the purple aura suddenly grew around his body, and Ronin's originally green eyes now turned glowing purple. Squirm. Suddenly, his body started transforming into a different entity. His entire body, including the head and skin, turned pitch black, and two black wings made of pure death/darkness element, similar to that of a raven, appeared. A hood pierced by demonic horns came out of his head, and an archaic symbol with glowing purple hue appeared on his chest. The Shinigami armor and Erebus daggers integrated themselves into this new transformation, in a way, turning into a part of his body. Minutes passed as Ronin underwent a form of evolution and finally spoke in a grim tone. The souls of the Imperial squad members suddenly started bowing in front of Ronin, gaining a purple mark of death and darkness around their chest. "I have finally found my purpose," said Ronin as his aura completely changed. "I have become the harbinger of death, the true apostle of hell. I have finally become the," declared Ronin as he commanded the souls of the dead. "Prince of Darkness." First, it was Omega who lost his cool, but now, it was Khan himself who was angered and openly challenged the hero of space for a fight. Why did Khan have such an intense reaction? Omega losing his composure suddenly over the intervention by the hero of space was not anyone expected, probably not even Omega himself. However, whether it was the beginning or the ending, Khan too felt that Ryukin was being a hypocrite. Khan said that he'd like to see how far the hero's companions could withstand Omega/Raiden's onslaught. But he never stopped or deterred Ryukin from acting on his own and intervening in the battle when his fellow members used the sanguine formation of death just for the sake of winning. Even though he too knew that Omega could almost certainly die despite this only being friendly duel as per his own words. And now that he did interfere, he was suddenly talking about going to an extreme level and even tried to fatally injure Omega as a form of showing him his place. So obviously, this left a bad taste in Khan's mouth. The friendly spar turned into a life-and-death match a long time ago, but he only reacted when his friends were close to losing their lives. In every way, it was total hypocritical behavior. That was why Khan now openly challenged the hero of space for a fight. Because if he did not stand up for his underlings, who else will? "Get some rest. I will handle this," said Khan/Byakuya in an authoritative tone. Omega nodded and flew kilometers away to recuperate and spectate the fight that was to come. "What's the meaning of this? Are you challenging me to a fight now, Masamundano?" asked Ryukin with a surprised countenance. "Didn't you hear that the first time, you dimwit? I don't think I need to be polite to a hypocrite who speaks volumes of honor and chivalry, about following a code but then goes against his own words as soon as his side is on the losing terms," berated Khan, completely throwing away any form of courtesy he had before. "A man must honor his beliefs and morals. That is done by not being dishonest to others, but to himself," said Khan as he cited what he was taught by Miyamoto-sensei. "One could preach about laws, morality, and what is good and evil, but such words hold no value if the one preaching it does not act and deliver upon them through their own action." At least Khan had long ago accepted that he was a selfish and self-serving person during his journey, and only recently, after achieving the fourth enlightenment in the space law, had he come to acknowledge that he needed to do more for the outside world than just being a cynical person. This also helped him overcome his inner darkness and finally helped him accept his role as a chosen hero. Not because the martial emperor, the elder dragon Salazar, the revenant sovereign, or the sword saint said so, but because he chose that goal and embraced those responsibilities by himself. He was no longer the hero of darkness because he was chosen. No, he was the hero of darkness because that is what his life's mission and purpose was at this point. And the very flaw he saw himself being guilty of was being committed by the hero of space. At least Khan owned the fact that he was a hypocrite in the past, but the hero of space was seemingly oblivious to his own actions. If one wanted it, they could find 10 excuses and 100 justifications to advocate their crimes. But that person could never be compared to someone who owned their actions and took full accountability for their deeds. You damn ruffians have no manners or shame. Let me ask you something. What have I ever done to either of you for such incessant disrespect and humiliation? Asked Ryukin, his eyes turning bloodshot red. Isn't it obvious? We were promised to have the opportunity to work with a savior who would supposedly save the world from the demon god who ought to destroy everything. Yet, what we witnessed was a hypocrite who seemed to have grown too comfortable in his own skin because he is called a chosen hero. Replied Khan in a condescending tone, as if repulsed by Ryukin's entire existence. Let's not waste time, shall we? Your wounds are also healed now. So show me if you are worthy of my respect. Said Khan/Byakuya. I guess there is no way of talking this out then. Let me remind you why there is a certain order of things. That there is a reason why I'm a chosen hero of a god and you're not. Spoke Ryukin, furious in his voice. At this point, he had let go of his understanding nature and no longer tried to reason with the newcomers as his pride was trampled upon. Good. This place is already ruined. Let's take it somewhere else. Said Khan, and soon he appeared 50 kilometers away in the sky with a single second. What? How is he that fast? It didn't seem like he moved, said Kagura, bewildered. No, he didn't move, rather it feels like he teleported. Spoke Ishin, the brains of the party. But how? I didn't see him using a spell, an artifact, or even some innate skill. He's not even a mage, so how did he do that? Asked Kensei with a confused expression. Right then, it was Omega whose voice reached into their ears telepathically. If you're surprised just by that, then you're all up for a show, he said in a smug tone. Soon, Ryukin also reached the new battlegrounds, although it took him 10 seconds despite being the hero of space himself. All right then, I shall still offer you some leeway to reflect on your behavior. Alas, they say that the hero of space was abusing his authority. Spoke Ryukin, and soon, his violet glowing katana burst with ethereal space force and the hero made a vertical slashing attack. Slash! At the speed of a lightning bolt, the 10-meter-long blade made of highly condensed space force attacked Khan/Byakuya. Ryukin also froze space around Khan to deter him from moving. However, cling! Just as the massive blade hit the latter, shatter, crumble. The sealed space around Khan shattered and the violet glowing space blade crumbled as soon as it hit the target. Ryukin's face was full of bewilderment because the first time, he hadn't noticed it when Khan saved Omega, but now it became apparent to the point that even the hero of space was stunned. Are you done playing? A voice reverberated on the battlefield from the point of impact. Khan/Byakuya had deflected that lethal attack with just the sheath of his katana. And what followed was a voice filled with disappointment and disdain. Do not mock me with such meager skills. Ryukin was completely stupefied after his slashing attack was split apart in a mere moment. Because it was one of his strongest attacks, it needed the use of both his space law to seal the space and confine the opponent in a spot where he could land the fatal blow. Meanwhile, his own attack skill, which condensed a massive amount of space force, was enough to cleave a mountain in two in a single second. However, Khan/Byakuya deflected one of his strongest attack skills with just a flick of his katana's sheath. Impossible! Spoke Ryukin in a hushed and baffled tone. Not just the hero of space but also his companions were left stunned and gobsmacked. This was an attack skill not even they could defend against even if they worked together. That's how terrifying the space law was. Because a blade made of the Space Force was able to split apart all forms of mana, elemental and world energy skills, barriers, formations, and even bloodline ability on the atomic level. Yet somehow, that lethal attack that even made Omega finally face threat for his life was casually brushed off by the one-eyed dragon, aka Masamune Byakuya. Just who is this man? Asked Momoko as her body finally healed from the injuries. So not only the vassal, but his lord was also a freak? Questioned Shingen with both of his mouths wide open. How? This shouldn't be happening? Spoke Ryukin, still carrying the disbelief in his mind. I only aimed to cut off Raiden's arm with my previous attack by sealing him in space. He would have regenerated later and this skirmish would be put to rest. I never planned on killing him to begin with, but by Kuyudano he just threw off my void blade like it was a piece of paper. Wondered the hero of space. Wait a minute, I don't sense any law from him either. Unlike Raiden, who practices the gravity law, his unique power is not traceable at all. Spoke Ryukin to himself again. Next, his gaze fixated on Byakuya, while a drop of sweat ran below his chin. Byakuya on the other end looked down coldly on Ryukin, sending a shivering chill across all his body. His intense and ferocious bloodlust almost made the hero of space freeze on his spot, as if a primordial vicarious beast was ready to devour him. Is that the best you can do? A grim and harrowing voice resounded on the new battlefield. That power, that's not the time law, and it's not the Space Force either. How did you deflect my void blade? Asked Ryukin, anticipating an honest answer. The unenlightened should try to open their minds to endless possibilities, responded Byakuya with an expressionless countenance. And right after those words reached Ryukin ears, his entire body was filled with goosebumps, as if he heard something unfathomable. The reason I couldn't sense it, don't tell me. He stuttered while speaking as his eyes were filled with shock. You've achieved the third enlightenment in the space law? Asked Sasaki Ryukin as his hands trembled, and so did his katana. Yes, I have. Revealed the one-eyed dragon without the slightest of worry. Gasp. Stunned. One after another. Everyone gasped in sheer disbelief and couldn't hide their shocked faces. Not a single one of them had expected Khan to be a practitioner of the space law at all. Although the Erdv Empire was nicknamed the Empire of Space because it served the doctrine of the god of space. The actual amount of people who practiced it was only 90,000 given how hard it was to learn and master. Out of those 90,000, hardly 1,000 people had achieved the first enlightenment in the space law. Those who were at the second enlightenment, including the hero of space, were less than 50 people in the whole empire. There were only 3 people in the entire empire who had achieved the third enlightenment as per their knowledge. That included the younger brother of the current emperor, Sakamoto Hideyoshi. So even the imperial family could produce only one person with the said third enlightenment in the past 100 years despite all the knowledge, research, and resources they had accumulated over the past 6 centuries. The hero of space himself was stuck at the second enlightenment for the past couple of years despite being the chosen representative of the god of space himself. Many didn't blame him because it had been close to 8 years since he was summoned, and generally, even those with second enlightenment had taken more than 3 decades for such accomplishment. However, seeing that Khan/Byakuya had also achieved that level of mastery, it was simply beyond their expectations. Were you solely relying on the fact that you have access to the Space Force to act like you were the one with authority? Asked Byakuya. Swoosh. Tell me now. But before Ryukin could even answer, Byakuya disappeared, and next, a hand was placed on the hero's left shoulder as the one-eyed dragon appeared in front of him. A ghastly and grim voice reached his ears as Byakuya asked, "Do you feel in charge?" Whoosh! Ryukin quickly stepped back and appeared a few kilometers away in the sky. He got past my senses way too quickly for me to even react. It's as if he broke the laws that bind space and time together. It only seemed like it was teleportation, but I can tell that he was manipulating the space around us with a single thought. I only heard that it was possible in theory, but did he perform that feat so effortlessly? If that's like how it is, then he is even far more dangerous as a foe despite both of us being 6th-stage saints. Thought Ryukin as his mind ran as fast as a computer trying to come up with countermeasures in case Khan attacked again. "You're wasting my time," said Khan with a dreary tone. "They say that you've hit your limits, but you should know better by now that the most effective way to surpass yourself is by keep trying until failure. With each failure, you slowly go past your previous limit. That is how you can attain what you can't hope to achieve." So, the hero of space, Sasaki Ryukin, declared Khan the very next moment. Cling. He unsheathed Muramasa. Boom! A massive dark blue aura spread on the battlefield as Khan/Byakuya revealed the true strength of his katana. The indomitable and insurmountable aura of the ancient rank weapon put an incomparably leaden pressure on the hero of space, immobilizing his body with sheer terror alone. Byakuya's personage, wearing the black hakama, started fluttering with the strong gusts of wind as he declared in a domineering tone, "Show me your motivation." Khan's eyes, full of determination and also oozing with coldness, focused on the hero of space, Sasuke Ryukin, as the former challenged the latter to show his motivation, invigorating the palpable tension even more. Boom! Suddenly, the battlefield in the sky turned dark as Khan's heavy aura instantly became incredibly malevolent. War dominance. After a very long time, Khan openly used the war dominance blessing, raising his saint pressure by 5 times, indicating his seriousness. This aura, why do I feel like it belongs to a 7th stage saint? Wondered Ryukin as his hands started trembling. It wasn't that Ryukin was weak like others, just that he didn't expect such tremendous pressure from Khan/Byakuya of all people. No, I can't be overwhelmed by just this. I need to get a grip on my mind. All of this is happening because I let my guard down, thought Ryukin and calmed his demeanor. Boom! His own violet aura erupted, and he threw off Khan's aura, removing the intense pressure on his body. Good. He should be able to do at least that much, thought Khan as he lightly smirked. Normally, even those of similar rank as him failed to circumvent the pressure from war dominance from their bodies. Yet, Ryukin overthrowing it indicated that he had a very strong foundation. Swoosh! Clang! And the very next moment, Muramasa clashed with Ryukin's katana, both blades carrying a space force of their own. Bark! Sparks erupted furiously between the colliding weapons, each katana charged with a staggering force capable of cleaving mountains with a single, decisive swing. The impact unleashed shockwaves that rippled outward in a 1-kilometer radius, shaking the air with explosive energy. Fortunately, the clash took place high in the sky. Had it occurred on the ground, the devastation would have been catastrophic. The very earth would have trembled, splitting open in tremors and leaving deep fissures as far as 5 kilometers away. The surrounding landscape would have been reduced to rubble, with forests flattened and rivers forced from their courses by the sheer impact. Such was the overwhelming might of these powerful saints, whose battles transcended mortal limits, leaving nothing untouched in their wake. "You think you stand a chance?" asked Khan as he smirked devilishly at the hero of space. In response, Ryukin's expression hardened while his pupils dilated with surprise. It's not just his aura. The strength behind this normal clash itself belongs to a legitimate 7th stage saint, spoke Ryukin to himself as he assessed Khan's true strength. One thing Ryukin became very clear of: if he didn't fight Khan/Byakuya with his full strength right from the beginning, he'd be tasting the dust of the battlefield. "Seems like you're overconfident of your strength since I have been holding back," responded Ryukin in a furious tone. He quickly disappeared from his position and appeared 3 kilometers away in the sky. Flutter! Ryukin then raised the blade of his katana horizontally in line with his eyes. "Reap everything to shreds. Kagura-sumaru," he commanded. Boom! Another violet aura burst out. However, this time, it came from the blade of Ryukin's katana, named Kagura-sumaru. Shing! One after another, thousands, then millions of violet whip-like blades appeared from the aura expelled by the katana, wriggling like a snake in the vast expanse of sky. They soon surrounded Khan and encompassed both the sky and the ground, filling the 10-kilometer radius with violet light. Every single blade floating was carrying the highly condensed space force, ready to cleave through everything that came in their way. Nice skill. Even an army of millions of soldiers or even a dozen saints will fail to defend against such an onslaught. Their skills, their defensive spells and formations, all of them would fall in mere moments. Praised Khan as he commended Ryukin's mastery of space law and how he incorporated it into this attack skill. "Is that so? You speak as if you are an exclusion. Do you think you will be able to defend against it?" asked Ryukin, ready to attack any moment. "I won't lose to the likes of you, Rukendano," declared Khan, and soon, he held his katana vertically, as the flat side of the blade was raised in between his eyes. Soon, the dark blue cosmic ether encapsulated the blade of the ancient rank weapon. Juoku no Ken Muramasa, declared Khan. However, there was no massive explosion or a burst of aura from Muramasa. Shimmer, like the shimmering light of the sunrise, the pitch-black blade exuded a blue fog of cosmic ether, and soon, the blade of the katana itself vanished, leaving behind only the hilt and handle. Even Ryukin was puzzled as the blue fog spread apart, but the enemy's weapon no longer had the blade. Shing! Alas, his surprise didn't last long as something unexpected happened. Ryukin's attack skill had completely surrounded Kon/Byakuya. But now, thousands, then millions, and finally, over 1 billion dark blue swords, made of Kon's cosmic ether and looking like a replica of Muramasa, appeared and surrounded the previously encapsulated battlefield. Shock! Gasp! Everyone, including Omega, gasped after they were taken aback by the immense scale of this skill. "Isn't that one of Musashi-sensei's skills?" asked Omega to himself, his eyes wide open with utter disbelief, because while training under Miyamoto Musashi, the Sword Saint had given him a demo of his skills. This skill was made only for those who wielded only one katana. And because he was learning the dual swordsman style, he was not taught this skill by the Sword Saint. However, unbeknownst to him, Kon had not only learned but also mastered it to perfection. If Ryukin's skill had 1 million blades made of Space Force, Kon's skill had at least 1 billion swords of cosmic ether. One could say it was the difference in skill or Space Force storage. But the main reason Kon could master it was because he already had the Sword Emperor skill. After being taught by Sword Saint himself, Kon trained relentlessly and learned the skill with his own talent and effort, elevating his previous limitations and breaking into a new realm of mastery. Clink! Soon, all the katanas started moving on their own, each one targeting both Ryukin and the blades he summoned. However, there were at least 1,000 replicas of Muramasa targeting a single Violet Space Force blade. This was the grandeur of one of the powerful skills taught to Kon by Miyamoto Musashi. Juoku no Ken, Billion Swords, now became one of Kon's skills exclusive to Muramasa. But things didn't just stop there, because soon, thousands of massive Muramasas, each being at least 100 meters long, appeared and encircled the battlefield from ground to the sky, creating an inescapable net. Ryukin's own skill was now fully surrounded by these thousands of 100-meter-tall and massive katanas, exuding ethereal blue cosmic ether, floating seamlessly as they created a formation of their own. "You're the first one to see it. This battlefield form is made of my weapon, Muramasa. I call it," said Kon calmly as his eyes were now filled with excitement for an intense battle. "Mugen no Ken no Ryoiki, the domain of infinite swords." Kon, fully embodying his Byakuya persona, unveiled an awe-inspiring new technique. Mugen no Ken no Ryoiki, a skill unmatched in power and artistry. This formidable ability manifested as over 1 billion ethereal swords, each one forged from cosmic ether. The sheer spectacle of it, a boundless array of gleaming, otherworldly blades suspended in the air, left all who witnessed it utterly speechless, their eyes wide with a mixture of admiration and dread. Is this truly possible for a 6th-stage saint? No, even a 7th-stage saint can't create these many swords using their skill, thought the hero of space, unable to hide his surprise. Every single created replica of Muramasa seemed to have a life of its own and moved freely while maintaining the formation akin to an impenetrable wall with no gaps. This domain isn't made of just a bunch of summoned swords with my world energy or a formation that will stay active for a short while. As the name says, the swords will be infinite as long as I'm alive, said Kon/Byakuya sternly. And given how all of them are made from a superior version of the Space Force, even your skill can't last against my swords for long. There's a saying, spoke Kon in a domineering tone as he looked down upon Ryukin. No matter how strong a defense, a stronger offense will always shatter it. His grim voice echoed as the hero of space felt a chill under his body. Ryukin's instincts were telling him not to move a muscle or else he would die a futile death. What hubris! I've fought and won against people 10 times stronger than me. Even if you have a superior skill to mine, you're arrogant to assume that I'm weaker than you. Spoke the hero of space, gathering his strength and resolve as he made up his mind to attack Khan. But in the following moments, the one-eyed dragon responded in a cold tone. The fact that you consider yourself as an equal to me is being arrogant in itself. A moment of silence ensued as Byakuya's declaration resounded on the battlefield. If Ryukin had pride as the hero of space, chosen by a literal god, Byakuya's pride was far above, both in terms of dignity and confidence in himself. This ignorant man. He has the galls to disregard me, a chosen hero, as his opponent. Where did he gain such overconfidence? He questioned himself. I guess talking with you is pointless. Let's let our weapons showcase who's truly superior. Spoke the hero of space as his katana was directed at Byakuya. Swoosh! Millions of Muramesas joined together as Ryukin made his move and signaled his wave of space blades to attack Byakuya. Soon, thousands of the space blades created a massive serpentine figure, with bright violet eyes and massive 5-meter-long fangs. Over 100 of these massive 50-meter-long snakes charged at Byakuya's location in the sky, and the onlookers could feel the murderous aura they revealed even from 30 kilometers away. Shoot! Like missiles, these numerous snakes slithered and attacked Byakuya, targeting him with full fury. And just as they came close to him, bang! Shockwaves reverberated in the surroundings as a massive wall made of millions of Muramesas appeared in between. Not only could a single snake made of space blades not pass, but half of them were destroyed from the collision alone. But things didn't just end here. Flicker. In mere moments, the shattered space blades were encapsulated by Khan's cosmic ether, and then all these blades became another replica of Muramesa themselves. Stunned. Even Ryukin was stupefied after looking at this phenomenon. Within my Mugen no Ken no Ryoiki, any form of space force, world energy, elemental attacks, magic formations, or laws of nature that clash against my katanas become my weapons themselves. And that is why I call it the domain of infinite swords. Spoke Khan/Byakuya in a calm tone with a slightly mischievous smirk. Boom! He no longer gave Ryukin time to retreat and strategize. All of his swords quickly started targeting and clashing against the ones summoned by the hero of space. Boom! Shockwaves after shockwaves erupted and shook the battlefield, raising massive clouds of space force and coloring the sky blue and violet from their clash. The billions of Muramesas not only protected Khan but also acted as a cage to stop the hero of space from advancing while crushing his skill fervently. Khan didn't even move a finger or make a gesture, yet all the swords attacked as if they had a consciousness of their own. Plenty of these swords gathered, turned into a long, Chinese dragons, and started devouring the massive violet snakes. And in mere seconds, the absorbed snakes turned into Khan's lonks as well. Instead of posing a threat, Ryukin's own attack skill was feeding and empowering Khan's domain of infinite swords. Your blade will never reach me like that, spoke Khan in a condescending but also disappointed tone, as if he was bored of playing with the little hero in front of him. If only Ryukin knew that he, the hero of space, was being completely dominated and toyed around by Khan, the hero of darkness. His mind would lose all rationality with the shock itself. After 10 minutes of this intense clash, Ryukin took a deep breath as most of his skill was now destroyed. Looks like there is no choice, said the hero of space, and his countenance turned heavy. He gathered all the remaining blades into his katana, creating a massive 100-meter-long blade of space force. Boom! Ryukin's aura erupted once more as he gathered all the space force within his body and concentrated it within his blade. Whoosh! As Ryukin swung his katana, leaving an afterimage behind, he charged at Byakuya with all his might and quickly reached the enemy, who stood 10 kilometers away. Despite having only a second left to defend himself, Khan did not move or even try to defend himself. Slash! All it took with a microsecond as the hero of space cut down his opponent. Boom! A massive explosion ruptured the very fabric of reality, as the hero of space unleashed his deadliest attack yet. An assault charged with the pure, lethal intent to end his opponent. The force of his strike carved through existence itself, sending a shock wave of destruction so powerful that it seemed to tear the world asunder. High above, the dark clouds split, parting like curtains to reveal a path of devastation stretching as far as the eye could see. On the ground below, mountains and valleys alike were cleaved in two, leaving a gaping scar across the landscape that extended for 10 kilometers. It was as if nature itself had yielded to the overwhelming power of the hero's wrath. The onlookers, including Omega, stood in stunned silence, their mouths agape at the spectacle of cataclysmic annihilation unfolding before them. No one had anticipated such an extreme display of power, and the awe in their eyes betrayed a mixture of terror and respect. But amidst the debris and echoing silence, Ryukin stood immobilized, his expression frozen in shock. His wide, disbelieving eyes seemed unable to process the enormity of what had transpired. Shatter. Crumble. Because Ryukin's most powerful and lethal sword attack, the 100-meter-long blade was suddenly stopped and shattered. Kon appeared in front of Ryukin, completely unscathed. However, the most shocking part wasn't him remaining unharmed. Rather the fact that Kon stopped the hero of space's most powerful strike and his katana, with his forefinger. Sasuke Ryukin stood rooted on the spot, unable to even move a muscle while his entire countenance failed to hide his disbelief. Kon/Byakuya had stopped one of his strongest attacks, not by deflecting, defending, or even evading, but rather by his mere forefinger. Was that just a single slashing attack? No, it wasn't. That attack skill condenses all my space force that is already out of my body and stacks it at least 100 times. It's more than enough to shred reality itself into thousands of pieces. One can't even use a legendary rank spell or a protective barrier, let alone face it headfront. But how did he not only remain unhurt but stop it at point-blank range with just a finger? Wondered Ryukin as his mind jumbled. But right then, an aghast and soulless voice reached his ears. Do not be mistaken, Ryukin Dano. Your blade touched me because I allowed it to reach me. Gulp. Ryukin gulped as his body trembled in terror, his senses telling him to run away as far as he could. Let me tell you about the difference between you and me. It's like the story of the monkey trying to capture the moon. However close he thinks he is to the moon, it's still just the reflection of the moon in the middle of the lake. Stated Byakuya with an abominating voice. Soon, Ryukin's trembling body calmed as the hero of space regained his composure. Despite his instincts telling him to run for his life, the hero who faced Kon wasn't a coward by any means who would run with his tail between his legs. This wasn't his first time, and neither would it be his last. You talk too much for a guy who just has an upper hand. Do I need to remind you that our battle has just begun? Asked Ryukin sardonically. Is that so? Then let me show you why I'm so confident of my strength. Spoke Byakuya in a cold tone. Grab. He grabbed Kagura-Sumeru's bare blade, and before Ryukin could even react, stab. Right in front of everyone's spectating eyes, Kon stabbed his own heart with Ryukin's katana. Stunned, Ryukin was completely shocked as he felt the tip of his blade pierce right through Byakuya's heart. Thump. Ryukin could even feel the pulsating heart of the one-eyed dragon, who seemed unbothered despite the drastic threat to his life. A dozen seconds passed as everyone remained shaken, unable to grasp the situation. Didn't I say that my Mugen no Ken no Ryoiki will stay active as long as I'm alive? Asked Kon with disdain visible in his right eye. Now, how are you going to win against me if you can't even kill me? He questioned sarcastically. Soon, he casually moved the blade from the side of his chest and left hand, the blade passing through them seamlessly. Gasp! This time, it was Ryukin who gasped loudly, unable to hide his bewilderment. What's the meaning of this? Even though I have achieved second enlightenment in the space law myself, I didn't think it was possible for mortals. Is that a special power that comes with the third enlightenment? Wondered the hero of space. Although Kon/Byakuya could be considered a genius in his own league, Ryukin didn't put too much stress upon that information till now because he assumed that at most, his present powers would either elevate or expand at most. He didn't foresee that one could unlock extra powers and new unseen abilities with the third enlightenment. It was akin to Khan being a living and breathing ghost. A ghost whose flesh could be touched and felt. On top of it, he was a pure human and not one of those species in the Erd vampire who could temporarily turn into a specter or a fog-like form. Swoosh! Ryukin took a defensive stance as he retreated a few kilometers away in the sky. Looks like apologies are imminent, Byakuya-dano. I humbly apologize for not taking you seriously till now, thinking that I could defeat you with normal means just because I'm a chosen hero. Spoke the hero of space with an earnest tone. There was no shame or ill will in his tone, rather genuine respect for Khan who had shown him the errors of his ways. One should be confident of their skills and strength but never become clouded with their judgment because of them. I had forgotten that for a while just because I've remained triumphant through all my battles in recent memory. Revealed Ryukin with a respectful tone. It is understandable. You must have never fought someone among your peers who could overwhelm you in any aspect till now. So I will let your ignorance pass this time. Responded Khan, acting like an old master giving pointers to his ignorant junior. But let me ask you, are you just a one-trick guy? Asked Khan, taunting Ryukin. Ha! Ryukin lightly chuckled as if he expected no less from his haughty opponent. I do have plenty of attack skills, but they won't work on someone as strong as you, said Ryukin as he admitted the difference between his previous evaluation of Khan. Then allow me to fight this battle seriously. I hope you don't consider it unfair to use the powers that make me unique, he declared with a quaint smile. Khan/Byakuya on the other end nodded with an expectant and excited countenance. What did it mean? Simply put, the hero of space had acknowledged Khan as a proper opponent who deserved to be fought with everything he had. And what made the chosen heroes unique than the rest? Their divine abilities. In the following moments, Ryukin sheathed his legendary rank katana, Kagura Sumeru. Soon, the entire katana itself disappeared, entering the true dimension like a permeating smoke. Come out, Toranaga! Shouted Ryukin, his eyes lit with battle intent. Swoosh! Suddenly, a brightly shining figure jumped out of black tattoos around both of Ryukin's arms. A 2-meter-tall fiery red tiger adorned with golden ornaments around its neck and legs, and a floating golden ethereal shawl draped over its back. Its presence commanded attention while making its formidable appearance known to all. This ethereal tiger had 2 bright red, glowing horns coming out of its forehead. Its fiery fur seemed to flicker like flames, and its golden ornaments shimmered in the light, adding to its majestic aura. The divine spirit that both Khan and Omega saw before had reappeared as Ryukin decided to use one of his trump cards. Divine ability, spirit possession, declared Ryukin. Jump! This time, the divine tiger jumped back at Ryukin, who himself had turned into a bright violet spirit being. Ah, he chose this as one of his divine abilities. Smart move, thought Khan to himself with a visible smile. Even he failed to hide the excitement on his face at this point. Boom! A massive surge of fiery aura erupted as Khan was flung 10 kilometers away by the explosion of scarlet red and yellow aura. This aura was neither the Space Force nor it was the world energy. It had a unique essence to itself, something Khan had never felt before. And as the 500-meter-tall pillar of fire disappeared, an amalgamation of 2 powerful beings came out. Before Khan stood an imposing figure. A 3-meter-tall man with blood-red and white skin formed in the shape of long straps, covering his entire body from head to toe appeared. His waist-length black hair and extremely muscled visage, akin to a demon, sent a heavy pressure in the battlefield. The figure with bulging muscles across the entire body had blood-red glowing eyes and also retained the 2 horns from the divine spirit, Toranaga. His teeth had turned into tiger fangs and fingers akin to tiger claws. What is the name of this form, Ryukin-dano? Asked Khan out of curiosity. In a sense, Ryukin and Taranga's currently merged appearance was similar to Khan's Azura mode. To his question, Ryukin with the ripped body with pulsating veins responded with a domineering voice, Shuten Doji, the blood demon. Ryukin, the hero of space, finally used one of his divine abilities in the battle and revealed a completely new battle form after merging with the divine spirit called Shuten Doji. Now his entire visage was covered in this unknown and otherworldly blood-red energy. However, this time, he did not stand at a ceremony to converse with Khan/Byakuya. Shoot! Like a bullet, he shot forth at Khan without letting the latter any chance to defend. Bang! Just like before, a massive and impervious wall of Muramesas appeared in front of Khan and defended against the attack. Crumble! But this time, something unexpected happened which left Khan stunned on his spot. The previously nigh indestructible swords now suddenly started crumbling and their entirety eroded right in front of his eyes. Shatter! Like a biochemical fog that ate every form of metal, the thousands of swords started shattering on their own. The aura surrounding Ryukin was somehow proving to be lethal against Khan's cosmic ether, making the latter full of shock. Ah, this cunning bastard! He was hiding such a powerful tool all along, thought Khan. Swoosh! Ryukin then started attacking Khan again and again as they flew in the sky. For the first time, Khan was forced to retreat and had the hero of space chasing after him. Because the aura covering Ryukin's body didn't belong to this world, and it wasn't just some single element of reality or law of nature either. If Khan had to put it in words, the otherworldly aura enshrouding Ryukin at this moment was a combination of his own blood, his self-developed variant of the Space Force, and the spiritual power of the divine spirit Toranaga. So that's the true potential of spirit possession? Asked Khan as he kept dodging frequently, appearing a few kilometers away in the sky with simple teleportation every time he moved. And what was so special about the divine ability called spirit possession? Khan remembered vividly what made this divine ability unique. Spirit possession wasn't just some ability that allowed the user to control a spirit or possess someone's body. Even Ronin had the soul possession skill that allowed him to temporarily occupy someone's body, as long as the entity was dead or the original soul lost control over the body. However, Ryukin could do it with both dead and living beings while his own body turned into a spirit itself. But there was one restriction that became a key factor for Khan back when he was selecting his own divine abilities all those years ago. Because the being you could perform the soul possession with needed to acknowledge you and give you their consent. This obvious demerit existed for a reason, because although the bodies could merge temporarily and create a new form, giving birth to a powerful entity, their souls still existed and would cause a soul dissonance. If performed on the corpse, the soul possession divine ability was without any problem. However, it didn't change the fact that a corpse was a corpse in the end. After a while, it would start to degrade and decay. It would take years for it to come into effect for sure, but he would need to return to his original self one way or another. A cheat code for multiple uses and many imaginative ways to utilize it on anyone, whether a common soldier or even a king of a country. This was without doubt a very helpful ability for Khan during his earlier times in Vantria. In the second scenario where Ryukin was acknowledged and had the consent to begin with, he would not only get to merge their powers, but both could coexist in this unified form, bringing out the best of their physical, bloodline, spiritual, and magical abilities together. On top of it, there would be no time restriction on the use of this ability, and it could be performed for years with no repercussions, unlike the first case. In Khan's case, he did not choose this divine ability due to his obvious circumstances and the fact that he wasn't entering Vantria with any companion either. There was no way he would have the means to fight or defeat powerful beings in his starting years and then gain their consent via various means. Also, if you become a saint while possessing someone else's body, all of your progress would remain in it, whether your strength, reflexes, or skills. There was no shortcut, and you would only have to work on your original body in secret nonetheless. It would have offered more risk than reward for Khan of the past, and that's why he didn't choose it. Just by the aura, I can tell that the divine spirit Toranaga isn't from this world. He must be from Ryukin's original world, brought here by the god of space to aid the hero after his summoning. On top of it, Musashi-sensei told me that Ryukin had contracted a total of 7 divine spirits in his home world. So does that mean he has 6 more different forms like this one? Wondered Khan with visible curiosity on his countenance. Wait a minute. The way Ryukin and that divine spirit merged. Where have I seen that before? Suddenly, Khan wondered. Shock! But the very next moment, thanks to his eidetic memory, he quickly remembered where he had seen, rather felt it before. It was just the same as when the martial emperor merged with the elder dragon Salazar. Spoke Khan to himself, his eyes wide open in disbelief. Khan also experienced this exact similar scenario when the original Khan Salvatore aka Martial Emperor had taken over his body during the fight with Hero of Time. He had used the fifth technique taught to him by Romulus, the heavenly king of fire called personification. During that fight, after using the Black Sun skill that created a literal black hole made of pure darkness element, the Martial Emperor was engulfed by the Elder Dragon and he merged with the Black Sun itself. After taking over Khan's body, they just used a slightly different method with a short activation time. However, the basic principle of its use was exactly similar to how Ryukin and Toranaga merged together. The Shuten Doji form even exuded an unknown aura, reenacting the same scenario when the future Khan had taken the Dragonoid form. So that's why he was insistent on it. He knew that the hero of space chose the soul possession in the original timeline, and since the events of the past are the same for him, the Martial Emperor wanted us to be allies in the fight against the demon god. There must be a bigger picture or something that will happen in the future. Otherwise, he would not have ordered me to do so. Looks like I'll just have to trust his words and see it for myself in the future. He concluded. Well, I can't fall short just because you're using a divine ability now. Can I? Asked Khan with a mischievous smirk. He deactivated his domain of infinite swords and Muramesa's blade appeared on the sword again. Whoosh! Suddenly, Khan's entire body turned dark blue. A combination of cosmic ether, and his black hair turned pristine white, while his eyes turned completely white. Now let's test for how long your transformations can last. He spoke in a firm and a kingly tone. Against absolute might. As the battle took a decisive turn, Khan, whose entire body glowed blue along with his glowing white long hair, floated in the sky. His eyes no longer had an iris and turned completely stark white, radiating like the morning sun. The black vein patterns made of highly condensed cosmic ether covered his both arms. This was Khan's true cosmic form, a manifestation of his powers that he never intentionally used against an opponent so far for many reasons. Whether it was his identity as Hero of Darkness or his intentions to hide his aces during battles, on many occasions, he didn't even need to utilize it against any enemy even during a deathmatch or a battle to the death. However, Khan decided to unveil this form against Ryukin of all people. In the short exchange after fending off against few of the hero's attacks, he figured out what was happening. The new form revealed by Ryukin consisted of his original world's powers integrated with the laws of Vantria, while merging with the divine spirits that had a unique power of their own. Right before Khan revealed the cosmic form that he gained with the Third Enlightenment in space law, he had a contemplation during the battle. This form of energy doesn't belong to this world, and that's why it can break apart the world energy and even my cosmic ether. So what? In the end, a part of it still originates from a world that is just another one of those billions of universes that are made in the image of Vantria. Even if it can somehow negatively affect the powers made with laws of reality, nature, and elements of this world, that's all there is to it. It may be able to corrupt the flow of world energy to a certain degree, breaking it at basic foundation, but there is a limit to how far it can go. He could cut cardboard with a chainsaw, but what about a wall made of steel? Thought Khan. That was the main reason why Khan decided to use one of his trump cards to fight against this Shuten Doji form taken by Hero of Space using the divine ability called Spirit Possession. Khan's cosmic form retained only the pants of the black hakama, as his true muscular build with black veined tattoos across his body was revealed. Although he was still 6 feet 4 inches and appeared shorter than Ryukin in his Shuten Doji form, which stood 3 meters, 9.8 feet, tall. The difference in strength no longer existed. All right then, let me test how special the Hero of Space is with his divine abilities, said Khan elatedly. The atmosphere tensed up, and this time, it was Khan who took the initiative. Bang! At the speed of light, Khan shot forward and attacked the Hero of Space with nothing but his bare fist. Boom! A massive shockwave ruptured the space and the very fabric of reality cracked in the nearby 1-kilometer radius. Every thread of laws of reality and elements of nature, whether in the form of skill or just wind itself, were cracked and shattered like ice. Soon, he launched a relentless barrage of kicks and punches, attacking with jabs, hooks, southpaws, and variations of kicks like a Muay Thai practitioner. Ryukin, on the other end, defended fairly well, as if this wasn't his first physical brawl either. His stances and battle senses were those of a skilled warrior who himself trained for more than a decade in this type of combat art. Crack. However, even at a standstill, one thing was common for both sides: that their newly assumed forms were very effective against each other. Because every time Kon landed a kick or a punch, Ryukin's arms would tremble and his body would get wounded just by defending against the attacks. His arms bled just by blocking an uppercut from Kon, as his bones also almost shattered. The same applied to Kon as well, because the hero of space's bloody aura and the scalding fire that had encapsulated his body also successfully breached his own, causing gashes and cuts even if Ryukin failed to make direct contact with him. Just by coming close to each other, both Ryukin and Kon's bodies started suffering damage from their respective auras and forms of energy, wounding and breaking them from the inside, while both of their regeneration skills healed them very quickly. In a way, they were using contrasting powers that were lethal to the opponent. In a sense, this battle itself was counterintuitive to two individuals who signified a difference of character. Meanwhile, even though the aura carried by Ryukin's punches carried the combination of blood, space force, and a fire of unknown origin, what's happening? When I used my Shuten Doji form against a mythical rank monster a few years ago, it died a very painful death, and not even the ashes of its body were left. But he is completely healing in no time, as if Taranga's eternal fire is somehow nullified. Asked the hero to himself. What Ryukin didn't, that Kon was immune to all kinds of fire in the world because of the divine key, Flame Scion. Also, the divine weapon Amaterasu was created using the essence of God of Fire, Hetrax. Hetrax was the origin of all fires, whether it was Vantria or any other world. So basically, Kon was completely immune to the powers of the divine spirit, making him currently the only exception in the whole world, even among other heroes or beings with immunity to the fire element. As for the blood and the space force, his own cosmic ether was far superior to being affected by the latter. And even though Kon had no control over any magic, element, or skills related to blood, the damage that could be done to him was easily reversible with his healing abilities. But Ryukin didn't know a single one of these facts. Thus, he was shocked out of his mind and lost his temperance due to the current predicament. Ryukin's countenance turned cold as he asked with a heavy tone, "Just who the hell are you?" Kon just simply smirked and replied calmly, "I'm your antithesis." Kon and Ryukin stood facing each other, their gazes locked in an unyielding stare down. They had cast aside their weapons, opting for the pure, unembellished brutality of a hand-to-hand brawl. Two warriors settling matters like primal forces of nature. The tension in the air was palpable, the kind that demanded silence from anyone daring to watch. "What kind of nonsense are you spewing?" Ryukin asked, his voice sharp with confusion. His brow furrowed as he struggled to make sense of Kon's cryptic demeanor. Kon's lips curled into a faint, enigmatic smirk. "Well, I won't bore you with a long explanation. Just think of it this way. Two opposing forces of nature, destined to collide, even though their paths lead to the same inevitable end." Ryukin's crimson eyes narrowed, his tone dark and commanding as he demanded, "Elaborate." Kon tilted his head slightly, his expression turning contemplative. "Let me ask you something, then. Why did you choose to become a hero, one of the chosen?" The hero of space answered immediately, his tone resolute, "Because it was a necessity for the greater good." Kon let out a soft chuckle, his smirk widening. "If it had been my choice, I would have declined right away." Ryukin's expression shifted, a shadow of intrigue crossing his face. "Why? God forbid a man has a preference," said Kon shamelessly. Such was the truth. When it was his turn, he rejected the god of darkness right away. The tension between them thickened, but Kon wasn't finished. Let's say you're faced with this dilemma. A group of soldiers and a group of innocent civilians are both on the brink of death. Who would you save? Asked Khan with a hint of skepticism. Ryukin didn't hesitate. The innocent civilians. Why? Khan pressed, his tone devoid of judgment, merely seeking the reasoning. Because the soldiers chose their lives, Ryukin replied, his voice unwavering. They embraced the risks and dangers to protect others. Innocent civilians, however, did not. They cannot defend themselves. Protecting them is our duty, our moral responsibility. Ryukin's gaze hardened as he turned the question back on Khan. And you, Byakuya, who would you save? Khan's expression darkened, his tone cold and cutting. The soldiers. The air seemed to freeze. Ryukin's eyes widened in shock, his face a mixture of disbelief and outrage. What kind of heartless bastard would make that choice? Khan's response came without hesitation, his voice calm yet resolute. Because by saving the soldiers, I'm securing a future. Soldiers are trained, disciplined, and prepared to face challenges. If I save them, I increase my chances of surviving what comes next. With their help, I might even save the civilians later. It's not about being heartless. It's about being pragmatic. The biggest irony of this exchange of opinions was that in his previous world, Ryukin himself sacrificed his life for the sake of saving the lives of thousands of his soldiers during the final war. Khan, as Elric, on the other hand, was a loner and a cynical man who would never have fit the role of leadership. However, due to his sense of morality from his first life, he would have chosen to save the innocent civilians. Yet in this life, he chose to save the soldiers instead. The roles had switched and both men had become the antithesis of not only each other but also themselves compared to their previous lives. The hero's party members and Omega, watching their exchange, fell silent, their expressions a mix of awe and discomfort. Neither answer could be easily dismissed. Khan's logic was chillingly practical, while Ryukin's reflected unwavering moral conviction. In the end, the conversation revealed an uncomfortable truth. Morality was not a matter of black and white. The world existed in shades of gray, where every choice carried its own weight of consequences and rewards. Both men had spoken their truth, and neither could be deemed entirely right or entirely wrong. Then let me ask you one last thing, Khan said, his voice steady and piercing as his gaze bore into Ryukin's. Would you sacrifice someone you love to save the world? His expression was unwavering, a mix of challenge and expectation. Yes, I would, answered Ryukin without hesitation, his face stern and resolute. A brief silence followed, heavy with unspoken thoughts, before Ryukin added, Now tell me, Byakuya, from which cloth are you cut? Khan's expression shifted slightly, a shadow of defiance creeping into his features. Any honorable hero, he began, his tone dripping with sarcasm, would sacrifice their love for the world. But a villain, he paused, his eyes gleaming with intensity. A villain would reduce this wretched world to ash for the one they love. The words hung in the air like a sharp blade. Khan delivered them without the slightest trace of shame or regret. I'm that kind of person, and that is why we are the antithesis of each other. The stark contrast between the two warriors became glaringly obvious, their opposing ideals now laid bare for all to see. One stood as a pillar of selflessness and duty, the other as an embodiment of unrelenting devotion, no matter the cost. Ryukin narrowed his eyes, suspicion flickering in his expression. Is there a reason you're asking me such questions? During the heat of battle? Yes, Khan replied, his tone calm and unbothered, as if the fight itself was secondary. I wanted to know what kind of man I'm facing, to understand you, so I could make you see the real truth. Ryukin's voice deepened, his tone deadly serious. Truth about what? Khan tilted his head slightly, a hint of mischief playing on his lips. That, I'll tell you if you can defeat me. With that, Khan assumed a ready stance, his presence radiating unshakable confidence. The gravity of his words only added to the tension in the air. It was clear to everyone watching. This wasn't just a clash of strength but a battle of philosophies, of two opposing worldviews that could never coexist. Khan then smirked and flexed his arms and legs. Swoosh! He suddenly appeared above Ryuken's head and without any warning. Kick! He made a downward whirling kick. Bang! Ryuken raised his head and quickly defended using his arms. Crack! But unlike before, both his arms failed to block and instead, they broke and got cut off with a single kick. Arg! Wailed Ryuken and created a distance between him and Khan. Thud! His severed arms fell on the ground, carrying dragon fire. But this time, his arms were quickly burnt off and turned into ash in just a couple of seconds. What the hell is happening? Was he holding back? Asked Ryuken to himself. Because the kick he fended off against just now was at least 100 times powerful, to the point his body could not even block it. Let me tell you something. This form of mine could not be affected by any kind of fire. As for the kick you just received, that was only 10% of my real strength. So if you try to hold back and think it'd be unfair of you to face me using a divine ability, you die, proclaimed Khan in a sardonic tone, his eyes revealing pure bloodlust. Squirm. On the other side, Ryuken's arms burned bright red, and soon, new arms grew from the scalding fire that appeared where his original arms were. Squelch. After the bones, flesh, and skin fully regenerated, Ryuken stared at Khan resolutely. Looks like you keep making me apologize to undermine you again and again. You're right. I should show you the true extent of my divine ability as well. Responded the hero of space. This time he was just as serious as Khan, no longer willing to hold back due to concern for his opponent's life. Do not blame me if you end up dying. I cannot hold back just because you're related to His Majesty, the Emperor, said Ryuken. Boom! The entire battlefield was obliterated in an instant. A violent wave of destruction surged outward, reducing a 30-kilometer radius to nothing more than scorched earth and voided space. Even Khan, despite his unparalleled strength, was forced to teleport away, reappearing near Omega, where the latter fought Ryuken's companions. But at the heart of the devastation stood Ryuken, unmoved and silent. His palms were pressed together in a meditative pose, his eyes closed in eerie tranquility. The raw energy surrounding him was palpable, a force so profound it seemed to bend reality itself. As the storm of obliteration settled, Ryuken's form began to change. His previously transformed state reverted, revealing his original body, but now the intricate black, blue, and red tattoos covering him, once dormant, began to glow with a radiant golden light. Each line pulsated with divine energy, their brilliance illuminating the desolation around him. The shattered battlefield was no longer recognizable. In its place, a new realm began to take shape, materializing as though summoned by an ancient force. Within moments, a 50-kilometer radius of the decimated expanse was absorbed and seamlessly integrated into this burgeoning world. The air itself changed, carrying an otherworldly aura, as if the very laws of reality had been rewritten. Monumental statues emerged from the ground, towering over the landscape. Gods, goddesses, and deities from Shintoism took form in intricate detail, their celestial visages imposing and eternal. Alongside them appeared mythological sites and sacred locations, their essence materialized from the fabric of Ryuken's power. The realm exuded a sense of divine authority, a sanctuary yet a battlefield, both beautiful and terrifying. Ryuken's transformation reached its zenith. The hero of space no longer resembled a man. His physicality had been replaced by something far beyond mortal comprehension. He now stood as a transcendent, ethereal being, a vessel of cosmic and divine energy. His form shimmered with the golden radiance of his 7 divine spirits, which had merged with him completely. Soon, Ryuken's voice echoed, calm and regal, but its resonance sent chills through every listener, mortal or otherwise. It carried the weight of celestial judgment and boundless power. With an air of absolute authority, Sasakai Ryuken proudly declared his ascension and unleashed his true might